I bet you want to know the best part about having a mother-in-law? You won't believe it. She literally does nothing all day. She's just there to clean up and watch the kids. That's her job, right? You see her? Yeah, that's my mother-in-law. Looks like she's busy, but she's doing nothing. Who needs to work when Grandma can do it all? Am I right, people? I laughed out loud at first, the kind of small, surprised laugh you make when a song you like plays on the radio. Isn't that funny? I said aloud, more to the empty kitchen than the screen. Funny for you, I muttered, because the voice on my phone was Lena's. Bright, practiced, the kind of voice that fills a room even when it's coming from a tiny speaker. You're not supposed to film people without asking, I told the phone, as if Lena could hear me through the glass. She's in my kitchen, the video said again, and that was when my smile stopped. The coffee was still warm on the table. I could smell cinnamon, the sort I grind myself, the same smell that's been in this house for years. I pressed pause with a shaky thumb. She's wearing my old apron in the video, I said aloud, and my hands felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. You used to love this chair, I heard myself telling the armchair, the navy blue one with the small tear on the right arm. She's laughing at the back of my head, I whispered, and the house answered with the soft hum of the refrigerator. You don't get it, do you? The video voice said, leaning closer to the camera. She sits around. She's retired. That's what retirement looks like. She's wearing my shirt, my yellow floral one, I said, because names and labels feel cheap when you're trying to place what hurts. People love this content, right? Lena asked the camera. Tell me I'm right. Someone will say it's a joke, I said out loud. Someone will say she agreed to be in it. She didn't agree, I replied to myself softer. Have you ever noticed that grandparents are just there? Lena continued, smiling like she'd thought of the funniest thing. They're kind of like furniture. They're useful but quiet, you know? She filmed my kitchen, I said. She filmed where I've been washing plates since morning. She said, what else is she going to do? Watch TV all day? I repeated, tasting the words like bad medicine. She used my favorite mug, the one with the blue flowers, I whispered. Even small things felt like theft. People, comment below. What would you do if your mother-in-law did nothing? Lena said, waiting like an auctioneer. What would you do? I asked the phone. Would you laugh as loud as she is? She's asking for likes, I said, because the screen glowed with numbers already climbing. She's selling a story. You see that? 50,000 likes, Lena said, holding the phone up like a badge. People get it. They see it. Why does she get to pick my picture to sell? I asked. Why does she get to make me the joke? It's just content, the video said, as if that explained everything. It's fun. Is your fun worth taking someone's dignity? I asked aloud, though I knew it was a speech no one online would hear. You ever wonder why she's so happy to help? Lena said, almost teasing. Maybe she likes being useful. Maybe that's enough for her. That's not the point, I said quickly, because the truth was sharp and immediate. I didn't become invisible to be comfortable for someone else. She smiled wider. Let's be honest. Grandparents were made for this, right? No, I said, steady now. I wasn't made for anything but my life. I used to make pies on Fridays, I told the room, my voice small. I sold them at the church bake sale. I worked nights at the factory. I paid for this house with my hands. You don't put that on camera for clicks, I said, more to myself than to anyone else. You don't turn someone's labor into a punchline. People drop a heart if you think Grandma should get paid for babysitting, Lena said, as comments scrolled like rain. Drop a heart, I repeated, watching the numbers tick. Drop a heart for a lie. She laughs at her own joke, I said, the word laugh bitter in my mouth. She's proud. I'm not going to cry, I told the kitchen. Not here. I won't scream. I set the phone face down for a moment and let the silence in the room settle like dust. I remembered my husband's hands, the way he tied my apron with clumsy fingers on busy mornings. I remembered the first time we signed the mortgage, the paper trembling under our pens, the relief like a warm wind. Those hands were gone, but their work, this house, this chair, that lemon tree, remained. She thinks I'm invisible, I said, but I can still see. The video kept playing in my head even when I closed the app. I could still hear Lena's laugh, sharp and eager. I could still see the camera angle that caught the back of me bending over the sink. I felt the weight of 1,000 strangers' eyes press against my shoulders. This isn't just a stupid clip, I told the empty room. It's a claim. They think I'm nothing, I said, kissing the rim of my favorite mug like they might take that too. But I am not nothing. A thin breeze pushed the kitchen curtain, carrying the scent of lemon from the tree outside. I kept the phone on the table, screen dark, counting the beats between my breath and the house's steady ticking. What she said next, I whispered, feeling something cold and decisive settle into my chest, froze the blood in my veins. I stared at the screen, my reflection dimly showing over the frozen frame of Lena's video. The camera had caught me from behind, bent slightly at the sink, my gray hair tied up in a bun, hands deep in soapy water. My body looked small, fragile even. Look at her, Lena's voice came through, playful, dripping with false sweetness. There she is again, my hard-working mother-in-law, washing the same 3 plates for the past 10 minutes. A wave of laughter burst from her followers in the comments. She's probably thinking about her glory days, someone wrote. Let her dream. Another, you could replace her with a dishwasher and she wouldn't even notice. Lena giggled between sips of coffee. You're awful! But honestly, you're not wrong. I could hear my own quiet breathing in that moment, louder than her voice. I whispered, why would she post this? The house felt suddenly colder. Maybe she doesn't realize what she's done, I said under my breath, searching for an excuse, any excuse. But my stomach twisted with a truth I already knew. She did realize. That was the point. The sound of footsteps upstairs broke the stillness. David's voice drifted down. Lena, that video's hilarious. You actually posted it? Yeah, she laughed back. People love it already. Look at the comments. You're savage, he said, still chuckling. Poor mom. I froze. Poor mom. He said it like a joke. The air felt thick. Even the tick of the kitchen clock sounded too loud. She doesn't mind, right? Lena asked between laughs. David hesitated. She probably won't even see it. She doesn't use social media much. I could almost hear her smirk. Oh, she'll see it. Everyone in town will. My hands were still wet. I wiped them on my apron, trying to catch my breath. They were laughing upstairs, light, careless, happy, and I was standing there, invisible, while the world turned me into a punchline. For a second, I considered marching up those stairs, but my knees wouldn't move. Instead, I sank into the chair beside the counter, gripping the edge of the phone like it might bite. She's a sweet old lady, Lena continued in the next clip, her tone dripping with mock affection. She insists on helping, but honestly, she just gets in the way. The comments multiplied. Classic boomer behavior. Tell her to relax. She's done enough. Does she even know how to use a microwave? I felt each line like a slap. She means well, I whispered to the screen. I've given her everything. My time, my home, my son. The words felt bitter leaving my mouth. I scrolled down, desperate to find one kind comment. Just one, but kindness had no place here. She should be grateful, one person wrote. Not everyone gets to live rent-free. Rent-free. That one stung. The house was mine. Every wall, every floorboard. I'd built this life from nothing. But somehow in their eyes, I was the burden. From upstairs came another round of laughter. You're actually trending. David shouted. Seriously? Lena's voice rose with excitement. Oh my God, I told you people love family stuff. Yeah, especially when you roast someone, he joked. Their laughter blended with the sound of the dishwasher clicking on, like punctuation on my humiliation. I leaned forward, elbows on the counter, my hands trembling. David, I whispered to the ceiling, do you even know what this feels like? My throat burned. I thought about the years I'd worked overtime to send him to college, the nights I stayed up sewing curtains, the meals I cooked from scratch when money was thin. And now my own son was laughing at me, for likes. I reached for my mug, but my hands shook too much. The coffee sloshed over the rim, dripping onto the table. Careful, Mom, I imagined him saying. You're making a mess. That voice in my head sounded too real. I took a slow breath and pressed play again. Lena had added a new clip, a compilation of me doing chores around the house, sweeping, folding laundry, setting the table. Each scene sped up and overlaid with a bouncy tune. The caption read, When Grandma Thinks Cleaning Chows Cardio. The comments poured in. She's adorable. She needs a hobby. Put her on a talk show. Adorable. As if I were a pet performing tricks. My chest tightened so much I had to sit back. For a moment, I thought of turning the phone off, but curiosity kept my finger hovering. Elo, bless her heart. If I don't take over soon, this kitchen will never survive. The clip ended with her laughing and blowing a kiss to the camera. The comment section exploded with laughing emojis. Something inside me cracked. I whispered, "Bless her heart," mimicking her voice, but I needed to know how far she'd go. Then came the part that changed everything. A close-up of me wiping the counter while Lena whispered to the camera, she broke mid-sentence. That's when I heard it, another sound from upstairs. David's laugh again, but softer this time, almost forced. "Hey, maybe you should take it down," he said. "She might see it." Lena scoffed. "It's just a joke, David, don't be so serious." "You filmed her without asking." "It's harmless," she said. Everyone's laughing. Still, she's my mom. "Oh, please," she replied, her tone suddenly sharper. "She won't even notice. She barely leaves the kitchen." Silence followed, then the sound of a door closing. My heart pounded. So he did know it was wrong, and he stayed quiet anyway. I turned off the phone and stared at the blank screen, my own reflection staring back. Tired eyes, shaking hands, a faint tremor in my chin. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too bright, too loud. This was something colder. Humiliation that seeped into your bones, into the way you breathed. I whispered, "I raised you better than this." The kitchen light flickered slightly, and in that quiet hum of the house, I finally saw what I had refused to before. I wasn't part of their life anymore. I was part of their content. That truth hit harder than any insult. I wiped the counter one last time and stared at the spotless surface. For years, I'd cleaned every mess they made. But this one, this mess they'd made of me, wouldn't come off so easily. I looked toward the staircase, listening to the faint sound of Lena's laughter fading into another video. That was the moment, I whispered, steady now, calm in a way that felt new. I decided silence would no longer protect me. "I can't believe she posted that," I heard Lena say, high and laughing from upstairs. "People love it," David answered, his voice softer, like he was trying to be amused and not cruel. "She's so sweet, she'll never even know," Lena said, rolling her words like a candy. "Maybe she will," David said, hesitating. "Maybe she'll see it." "Relax, Dave, it's just a bit of fun. Everyone does it." "Yeah, everyone does it," he echoed, almost as if he was convincing himself. I sat very still by the window with the curtains half open. The house felt bigger somehow and colder. Their laughter bounced off the thin plaster and landed inside my chest like pebbles. I remembered the first time I brought David home from the hospital. He was so small, eyes closed tight. I remembered the look on my husband's face when we signed for the house, hands trembling, both of us thinking it would be enough. I remembered nights with the factory lights still on in the distance, my fingers sore from sewing, my heart full of plans no one saw. "Do you think she minds?" Lena asked again, a little sharper. "She might," David said, quieter. "But she's always up with the kids. She likes it." "Exactly. She loves to help. It's perfect content." "It's messy," David whispered like he was confessing. "It feels wrong." I pressed my palm to the cool glass. Outside, the lemon tree shadowed the lawn. Inside, dishes waited in the sink as if they knew to be patient. Their words were small, but they grew heavy with every repetition. "You work and you wait," I thought. "You build and they turn your building into a joke. She made those pies for the bake sale when you were little," I said to the dark room, the words landing gentle and raw. "I used to sell them on Friday nights." "You did everything," I told the window. "You kept us safe." "Why are people so mean?" I heard myself ask the empty kitchen. The answer didn't come from upstairs. It came from a life of being turned down at town meetings, from being told to be grateful for scraps. It came from patching a roof while wearing someone else's praise like a thin shawl. "Maybe you should take it down," David said. And then, as if he heard himself, "I mean, maybe she won't see it, but still." "It's fine. Don't be dramatic," Lena replied, faster this time. "She's in her little world. Let her have it." "She's not little world," David mumbled. "She's my mother." That word hit me like rain on parched soil. My son. The boy I taught to wash his hands properly. The boy I walked to school with when the snow pooled on the sidewalks. He had said my name like a possession, like something to be owned or set aside. I remembered the first time I fixed the leaky sink myself. The landlord had told me to leave it alone. I bought a wrench with money I didn't have and learned. My hands bled then too. My hands remember how to save a family by holding things together, by fixing what others ignore. I can't believe this is how we're treated, I said under my breath, more to myself than to them. You raised him, Lena said in the clip that played in my head. That's nice, but come on, it's content. Content, I repeated, tasting the word. It felt like sand. The house hummed around me. The kettle on the stove cooled. A single moth tapped the screen by the porch light and fluttered away. Their laughter upstairs thinned out and then came back in bursts, the kind that makes your bones ache. You're overreacting, I imagined David would say if I marched up the stairs. He always used that line when he wanted peace more than truth. Maybe, I thought, maybe I am tired of being quiet. You really think she'll see this? Lena Real now said into the phone. Wouldn't that be messy? She probably won't, David answered, but his voice held a new edge. Even if she does, what can she do? It's just a video. Just a video, Lena repeated like a mantra. People get likes. That's the point. I closed my eyes and felt the years fold into themselves. I saw a younger me carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs. I saw myself sitting at a factory table stitching seams while a supervisor called numbers and never my name. I saw David laughing at a soccer game, not knowing how many evenings I had skipped to make sure he never missed one. You sleep too much for someone with that much energy, Lena said, voice light as a balloon. He's laughing with you, I said to the dark room. He's laughing at me. The phone sat on the counter, still warm from where I'd set it. I thought about picking it up and calling David downstairs. My throat tightened, just thinking of saying his name in a way that would make him look up and feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Responsibility. You think you're protecting us, I whispered. But what you're protecting is a lie. You think silence keeps the peace, I told the house. But silence made me invisible. The light over the sink gave off a soft, forgiving glow. My hands, calloused and steady, folded into my lap. I breathed in, slow and deep. What would you do if it were your mother on the screen? I imagined asking him plain and simple. He'd say, I don't know, came a ghost answer, not from him, but from the boy I once knew. He'd say sorry. Sorry felt small next to the weight of being made small. I pressed my palm against the counter and felt the grain of the wood under my fingers. This house held every promise I had made myself. Each board, each nail, had my name in it, even if no one had said it aloud recently. Laugh all you want, I said softly, letting the words sit in the room. I'll still be here washing the plates you'll leave. And when the lights go out for you, will you be ready? Lena's voice hummed on the screen, a bitter question wrapped in a smile. No, I thought. I won't wait to be ready anymore. Outside, the night breathed. Inside, the walls seemed to echo back every small kindness I'd offered and turned into expectation. I stood and moved to the sink. I picked up a plate and washed it until the water ran clear. My hands didn't tremble as much now. The motion steadied me. If they thought I was weak because I was old, they were about to learn who I really was. You made breakfast? Lena called from the hallway, voice bright like nothing had happened. Yes, eggs, I answered, keeping my tone light. Help yourself. Oh, you didn't have to, really. I like to, I said, folding a towel. Sit, eat. Thanks, Grandma, she said, sliding into a chair with that practiced smile. You always do too much. You'd say that? It's sweet, she added, and laughed softly, as if the word covered everything. Morning, Mom, David mumbled, rubbing his eyes at the counter. Smells good. Thanks, I said, placing the plate in front of him. Have some. Sure. He picked at his food, quiet. You okay? I'm fine. You sure? You looked distracted, maybe. I smiled and kept my hands busy with the dishcloth. Coffee? Yeah. He reached automatically for his mug. You really should slow down with the cooking, Lena said, scrolling her phone. People will think you're trying to win some award. People will think what they want, I said. I make what I like. You're too humble. She waved the phone like a badge. Everyone loves a humble grandma. That's a new brand, I muttered, then laughed lightly so she wouldn't notice the edge in my voice. Are you going to do anything about that video? David finally asked low. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm thinking, maybe just ignore it. He avoided my eyes. It'll blow over. It didn't feel like ignorance, I said, folding a napkin. It felt deliberate. Maybe she thought it was funny. Maybe, my jaw tightened. Maybe she did. You keep doing you, Mom, David said like a shield. Don't let it what? I asked. Turn me into a punchline? Don't let it ruin your day. He sounded tired, not mean. Please, I'll be fine. I turned the conversation away because I needed a plan more than more apologies. Later, when Lena left to run an errand, I dialed a number I hadn't used in months. Carla, I said when she picked up, voice shaking a little. It's Ruth. Are you free? Ruthie. For you, always. What's wrong? Carla's voice was warm, quick. Can you meet? I need advice. Of course. Now? Soon. I don't want to talk about it over the phone. Okay, I'll be there by 2. I hung up and sat for a moment, the kettle cooling on the stove. The house felt different, smaller in the way that news shrinks safe spaces. I pulled out a folder from the drawer, the deed, old mortgage papers, photocopies of receipts, a handful of photographs where the yard was nothing but dirt and a dream. These are all you, I told the papers, as if they needed reminding. When Carla arrived, she stepped in with a steady calm. You look upset, she said, folding her gloves in her hand. I watched a video, I said, and I told her everything in dents and pauses. Lena's laugh, the camera catching my back, the comments about being useless. I played the clip on my phone. Carla watched, jaw tight. She filmed you without permission, she said at last. And she used your home as a prop. She's my daughter-in-law, I said, the word small. She thought it was funny. That's not the point. Carla's voice was crisp. The point is consent and dignity. This is possibly actionable. Actionable? The word felt large. How? Depends. We need to see what she posted, who saw it, how it's framed. But more important, who owns the house? I sat back and told her the story the house held. The nights I worked double shifts, the loans, the repairs I did myself. She listened like a judge weighing scales. If the deed is in your name, she said slowly, then legally, you have more power than they think. Can I protect it? I asked, the hope sudden and bright. Yes, but quietly. We don't need drama in public right now. We build a case and set boundaries. While Carla made notes, I called Michael. My nephew answered on the 3rd ring. Mike, it's Aunt Ruth, I said. I need legal help. Property stuff. Of course, Aunt Ruth. What happened? His voice was direct, practical. I'll be blunt. My daughter-in-law posted a video that uses the house and me as a joke. There's talk about inheritance and... Okay, first thing. Do you have the deed handy? Yes, I do. Good, bring it to me. Also, bring any mortgage papers, insurance, anything with your name. Will that stop anything? I asked. She said they have rights after 5 years. She's been saying things. Possession claims aren't that simple, he said. If the deed is in your name and there's no lease, you are the owner. But there are nuances. We'll draft a plan. You sound confident, I said, grateful but wary. Because I've seen this. People bluff a lot. They count on fear. Don't let them. I don't want to hurt David, I said. He's my son. You can protect your home and your son, Aunt Ruth. It's not either or. After we hung up, I spread the documents on the kitchen table and began sorting. Old utility bills, a receipt from a lumberyard, a faded photo of the yard the first year. Each paper felt like a thread of proof I could weave into armor. I built this, I told the empty room. I will defend it. Carla suggested a quiet line of moves. Check the deed, confirm there's no signed lease, draft a living trust if needed. Michael promised to look into immediate protections. The plan felt like a map laid over a minefield. I liked maps. Maps meant steps. Steps meant control. We'll do this quietly, Carla said. We'll set the terms. They won't expect that. They won't, I agreed. At noon, Lena came back and hugged the children, laughing about some story from the car. She kissed my forehead in a way that went through me and missed. You okay? She asked, casual. Yes. I handed her a plate of cookies I'd made. For you. Thanks, Granny. She flashed the camera-ready smile and turned back to her phone. I have to film in an hour. All right. My voice was steady, small like a stone dropped into a pond. That evening, after the children were asleep and the house quieted, I looked at the list I'd made. Carla, Michael, deed, mortgage, photos. I drew a line through each name as I called them. I felt something shift. Not anger, not revenge. A clarity I hadn't had when I was younger. This was not about retaliation. It was about protection. I don't want to fight, I whispered into the dark. I want what's mine and my dignity back. The moonlight slanted over the photographs on the table. The lemon tree's shadow cut a pale shape on the floor. My hands folded the papers neatly and placed them in the drawer I'd used for decades. It felt like closing a small chapter and opening a plan. I slept with the list under my pillow, thinking of the next moves. Before I made a move, I needed to know exactly what I was up against. You awake? I hissed without meaning to say it aloud. No, I'm whispering, came the low reply from the yard. Lena's voice, breathy and careful. Who are you talking to at this hour? I whispered back to myself, and then I moved to the window like a sleepwalker. I told you, just wait, Lena said into her phone, voice small but urgent. It's not that hard. She's 68. She's not getting any younger. She's fine, isn't she? Replied a softer voice on the line. She still cooks, she watches the kids. She's not fine for what we want, Lena said, almost gleeful. The house, that's the prize. Once David has it, we can do what we want. Are you sure the paperwork works like that? The other voice asked. You don't want to get stuck. Trust me, Lena said. I talked to the lawyer. He said if she hasn't made a will, it goes straight to David. Easy. That sounds risky. It's not risky. It's strategy. I pressed closer. The window was cool against my cheek. I hadn't meant to record, but my thumb must have brushed the phone. It was still lit on the table, idle and warm, and the recording button blinked when I moved. My heart thudded so loud I thought it would betray me. We just have to make sure she stays comfortable, Lena went on. Keep her busy, praise her, let her feel useful. Like a paid worker? The other voice said, a little laugh. That's awful, Lena. It's practical, Lena answered. She thinks she's loved. She thinks she belongs. Meanwhile, we're securing the future. I felt a cold hollow open in my chest. My hands found the sill and held on. I could see the lemon tree's shadow across the lawn, the same tree I planted when David was small. The little lights from the street painted the yard silver. My blood felt loud in my ears. She will never suspect, Lena said, whispering now as if the walls might hear. Who would? She's always been so giving. She gives and never asks. That's what scares me, the other voice said. It's cruel. It's smart, Lena corrected. We don't need to be cruel. We just need to be patient. Patient? I repeated quietly to the glass. Patience had been my life's rhythm, patience and work. I had patience enough to sew the hem on coats, patience to wait out storms, patience to count coins. But this patience was the other kind. It was the kind that used time as a weapon. You said the lawyer mentioned possession? The other voice asked. He said we could argue contribution, Lena replied. 5 years under our roof counts for something. We've paid for groceries, utilities, that adds up. He said we can make a case. That's borderline. It's legal, Lena insisted. If I plant the right seeds, by the time she's gone, the house moves to us without fuss. I tasted each word like a bitter spoonful. Gone. The sentence pinballed around my head. I'd lost my husband and made this place with my hands. I had painted the kitchen twice, learned to fix the leaky sink, mended the roof when a storm ripped a tile. All of it felt suddenly small under her plan. She's sentimental about everything, Lena mused. If we keep her busy with the kids, with recipes, with little projects, she won't think about the legal stuff. She raised your husband, the other voice reminded her gently. You should be kinder. I am kind, Lena said, the word sharper than I liked. Kind enough to let her sleep in peace while we set things right. Look, you don't need to worry. I'll handle it. My hands clenched without meaning to. I could hear my breath. My thumb slid across the record button again, but I didn't switch it off. I wanted proof, a way to hold the sound steady so my mind would not betray me later. Proof to show someone who thought I was made small for their comfort. Proof that would make the whispering become real. There's one more thing, Lena said after a pause, like she was checking notes. If she ever starts doing anything different, calls someone, asks about a lawyer, we slow her. Distract her, take the children out, make plans, make it seem natural. That feels mean, the other voice said, quieter. Plans are not mean, Lena said. They're practical. We're thinking about college funds, about moving. This house is the foundation. I remembered what I'd done to build this home. Late nights making pies to sell at the church, second shifts at the factory, a loan I paid off on time. My hands had scars from cement and paint. My palms had held pennies. The idea of being reduced to a tactic in someone else's life stunned me into a new kind of clarity. "She won't know," Lena assured. "She's too trusting. And when she finally... Well, when she's not here, David will get the deed and we'll have nothing to worry about." "She talked like that?" I said aloud, the words tasting like glass. "Like waiting for someone's end?" "It's business talk," the other voice said defensively. "You're making it worse than it is." "It's wrong," Lena replied, soft for a moment. "But it's what smarter people do. We're practical." I pressed my face to the cold glass and let my tears come, 2 small lines that felt both ridiculous and heavy. They didn't make me weak. They made me human. I thought of David as a little boy, his hair matted with snow after school, his tiny hand in mine when we painted the first fence. I thought of the promise he made at his graduation, the one about making me proud. "You need to keep a low profile," Lena said. "And I'll keep the video rolling now and then. People love this kind of content. It'll distract." "That seems cruel," the other voice repeated, like a thread that didn't want to break. "It's not cruel if you call it planning," Lena answered. "Call it protecting our future." A long silence hung between them. I could hear the other voice breathing. I could hear the world spin. My phone lay on the table behind me, recording every syllable like an accusation. I had not planned to be the kind of woman who listened through a window at midnight. But sometimes the truth arrives in a way you never expect. "If she makes a will?" the other voice finally asked. "Then we move quicker," Lena said. "We pressure, make it seem unnecessary. We keep her away from lawyers. You know how sentimental older folks are. They rarely take those steps." "That sounds risky." "We'll be careful." I put my hand over my mouth, the gesture more to steady myself than to hide the sound. My knees were weak. I wanted to run upstairs and confront them, but something steadied me. The knowledge that reaction without plan would change nothing. I'd always been careful with my house. I had never rushed. Rushing had cost me things before. "You do this," the other voice said finally, voice tired. "You know I don't like it." "I'll do it," Lena said, resolute now. "I'll keep her happy. I'll keep her busy. And when the time comes, we'll be ready." The line clicked as if punctuating a sentence. Lena laughed softly, a sound like too much sugar. She didn't hang up. She tucked the phone into the back pocket of her jeans and walked back toward the house, humming a tune like someone who'd already won. I stood at the window until the humming faded. Outside, the lemon tree threw a darker shadow across the yard. The night settled like a blanket, and in its folds I felt something shift inside me, small, cold, and very certain. I reached for my phone, thumb finding the recording. 8 minutes and some seconds, everything there, clear and undeniable. I listened once, then twice. My hands didn't shake as much the second time. I put the device under my pillow like a small hot stone. If they thought they could treat my life like a waiting game, they had made a mistake. "I had to hear it again," I said, sliding my phone across the table. "You recorded it?" she asked, eyes already on the screen. I didn't mean to at first. I watched her face as she tapped play. "Lord," she breathed, jaw tightening. She said it out loud. My voice felt small in the room. She planned it. Carla's hand clasped the mug like a lifeline. "This is worse than a mean post." "You think she knew?" I asked, because the thought burned. She knew exactly what she was doing. Carla set the phone down and folded her hands. "Listen to me, don't react." "Not yet." "Don't react?" I repeated. "She's been making me a joke." "I know," she said steady. "But panic makes you vulnerable. We'll be smarter." "What can we do?" I asked. The words came out raw. "First breathe," Carla said. "Then we map it. Who posted it? Who shared it? Who commented? Next, what's the legal state of the house?" "It's in my name," I said. "Deed, mortgage, all of it. I paid for most of it myself." "Good." Her eyes softened a fraction. "That helps. But no will means intestacy rules apply. David would be first in line." "He's my son," I said. He might not have to do anything," Carla finished. "That's the problem. No will, no obstacles." "You mean they could just wait?" I asked, image by image of the backyard flashing through my mind. "They could try." Carla's voice was calm but grim. "There's also talk of possession claims if someone lives somewhere long enough. Not easy, but people try." Lena said something about 5 years, I admitted, throat tight. She thinks living here gives them rights. Possession is messy, she said. But don't let talk scare you. We'll cut the noise. Carla reached into her bag and pulled out a notepad. We need documents. Deed, old mortgage statements, receipts for renovations, tax records. I have them at home. I pictured the folder in my kitchen drawer. All of it. Bring them, she said. And bring the recording. She looked at me with that sharp kindness she always had. I'll call Michael. He'll know the best move. You really think Michael can help? I heard the hope like wind. He's a good lawyer, she said. Property law's his work. He'll tell us if a trust is necessary or if we can set up protections fast. Protections? My pulse quickened. Like what? Locks. Legal locks. She smiled without humor. A trust. Temporary injunctions if needed. We'll make sure the house stays yours while you live. Carla dialed the number right there. The ring sounded strong in the tiny kitchen. Michael, she said when he answered. It's Carla. Sit down. This is urgent. We've got the audio, she said into the phone, handing the device to me so I could play it again. I'm hearing it, Michael's voice replied, steady and clear. That's damning. Can we file something? Carla asked. We can, he replied. A living trust is best if she wants to keep absolute control while alive. It's quicker than probate work. Do you have the deed? Yes, I said. It's at my house. Bring it to me first thing, Michael said. I'll draft the trust documents. We should also make an inventory of possessions in the house. Anything they brought after moving in. Documented. Why that? I asked. So you can prove what belongs to you, he explained. If they claim contribution, we show receipts and timelines. And if they threaten anything, there are immediate legal steps. You sound sure, I said, relief leaking like warm light. I've dealt with attempts like this before, he said. People assume loudness is the same as proof. It isn't. Will David be angry? I asked, cutting the rest of it short. I don't want to ruin him. Families break sometimes in this kind of storm, Michael replied, careful. But protecting your home now prevents a worse rupture later. How long will a trust take? I asked. Not long if we move today. He paused. You'll need ID, deed, mortgage papers, any loans paid off. I can prepare drafts tonight. We meet tomorrow, sign. Tomorrow, I said, tasting the word. It felt like a promise. Carla poured more coffee. Steam curled into the dim light. You've been strong all your life, she said. Now you get help. Help feels strange, I admitted. I did this alone for years. You didn't have to do it alone today. Her tone was soft but firm. Bring the photo albums too. They prove history. They matter. I'll bring everything, I promised. The old receipts from the lumber yard, the photos of the first paint job. I could feel the pieces falling into place, threads wiring into a net. We'll be discreet, Michael said. No public statements. Let them think nothing's happening. Surprise is on our side. Surprise? I echoed. The word felt like armor. Yes. Michael's voice warmed. We'll make a legal barrier they can't climb. Living trust keeps you as beneficiary for life. They can't touch it, not without your consent. That sounds perfect. I breathed out. The air felt lighter. For the first time since the video, a small light moved in my chest. Carla leaned forward. One more thing, keep the recording safe. Back it up. Email me a copy into Michael. Evidence matters. I already saved it twice, I said. I put one copy with my things and one here. I felt foolish and proud at once. I'm scared. Good, Carla replied. Fear makes you careful, but don't let it freeze you. Tell me what to say if they ask, I murmured. What if David confronts me? Say the truth, Michael said plainly. You built this house. You paid for it. You're just asking them to respect you. And if Lena gets loud? Carla added. We respond with proof, not emotion. Show the papers, the inventory. Legal clarity beats shouting. Can we do the trust quietly? I asked again. Yes, he said. We'll handle it with minimal fuss. I'll come by your house tomorrow. We sign, it's binding. That soon? I whispered, surprise and gratitude twisting together. Soon is safer, Michael said. They can't claim ignorance if you act in time. Carla smiled at me like she did when I'd been a stubborn child. You raised a smart son. He'll understand once the truth is clear. I hope so, I said, though the worry sat heavy. I imagined David's face when he saw the recording and when he saw the trust. Would he stand with me or with his wife? The question trembled like a loose thread. The three of us sat in the narrow kitchen while the afternoon light thinned. Coffee cooled, papers settled into neat stacks. We had a plan. It was legal and careful and quiet. For the first time since the post, I felt the balance shift. I was not alone. I had allies. I had proof. Tomorrow then? Carla asked. Yes, I said, feeling a steadying warmth. Tomorrow. A clock on the wall marked minutes with a slow, certain tick. I stood up and smoothed my skirt. I took the phone and tucked a copy of the recording into my purse beside the deed I had brought. My hands didn't tremble now. The plan sat solid in my bones. All I needed now was the perfect moment to strike. Guess what? Lena burst into the kitchen, waving her phone like a trophy. I turned from the sink, wiping my hands on a towel. You sound excited. Oh, you'll never believe it, she said, almost bouncing. David and I just won something huge, an all-expenses-paid resort trip. That's something, I said carefully. 3 days, 2 nights at Blue Shore Spa, she continued. Luxury suites, massages, champagne dinners. Can you believe it? Lucky you, I said, smiling just enough to make it believable. She grinned wider. It's like the universe is finally rewarding us for all our hard work. David came in behind her, holding his coffee. Mom, did you hear the good news? I did, I said. Congratulations. It's been years since we took a real vacation, he said, glancing at Lena. We could both use the break. I'm sure you could, I agreed. Who'll watch the kids? Oh. Lena stopped mid-celebration, glancing at David. Right, the kids. I could almost see the panic behind her smile. Don't worry about that, I said gently. They can stay here with me. Are you sure? She asked quickly, almost too quickly. We don't want to bother you. It's no bother, I said. I love having them. It'll give you two a real chance to relax. David's shoulders eased. That would help us a lot, Mom. Of course, I said. Family helps family. Lena clasped her hands together dramatically. You're the best. Honestly, what would we do without you? Let's hope you never have to find out, I said, and she laughed, missing the edge in my tone. They started packing right after breakfast, moving through the house like they owned it. I watched them from the hallway. Lena tossing clothes into a suitcase, David checking his email at the kitchen table, both of them too busy to notice me quietly observing. She passed me once, still smiling. We'll be gone before lunch. Don't let the kids eat too much sugar, okay? I'll take care of them, I said softly. When the car finally pulled out of the driveway, I stood by the window until their taillights disappeared. The house fell into silence, deep, clean, almost holy. I let out a long breath. Finally, I whispered. Then I reached for the phone. Michael, I said when he answered. It's time. Are you sure? He asked. Positive. They just left. I'll make the call, he said. The movers are ready. Within the hour, a large white truck rolled up to the curb. The sound of the brakes made my heart race, not from fear, but from something that felt close to freedom. 2 men stepped out dressed in Navy uniforms. You Mrs. Lewis? One asked. Yes, I said. Thank you for coming. No problem. We got the list from Mr. Parker. Just point us where to start. Start with the guest rooms, I said. Then the attic. Everything that isn't mine goes. They nodded and got to work. I moved through the house as they lifted boxes, folded blankets, and stacked furniture. The air filled with the rhythm of footsteps, the scrape of wood against floors, the dull thud of drawers closing. I'd spent years keeping this house tidy, filled with warmth. Now it felt like it was exhaling, pushing out everything that didn't belong. Careful with that, I said, as one of the men carried a large mirror down the stairs. That was hers. Got it, he said. Michael arrived shortly after, papers tucked under his arm. You're moving faster than I thought, he said, a note of approval in his voice. I've waited long enough, I told him. He glanced around. You're reclaiming it. Piece by piece. Did you sign the trust document? He asked. Yesterday, I said. Everything's finalized. Then you're officially protected, he said. They can't touch this property, not legally, not emotionally. Good, I said. It's time my home felt like mine again. As we talked, one of the movers entered, carrying a box labeled Kitchen, Misk. Where do you want this? He asked. Garage, I said. I'll go through it later. He nodded and left. Michael looked at me for a moment. You know, this isn't revenge, he said softly. This is justice. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want peace. Then you're already winning, he said. The afternoon sunlight spilled through the windows as boxes disappeared one by one. I could finally see the wooden floors again, the ones I had polished with my husband years ago. I ran my hand along the banister, smooth, sturdy, unchanged. "This house remembers who built it," I said. Carla called while we were finishing up. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Better than okay," I said. "It's happening right now." "I'm proud of you," she said. "You're doing what most people only dream of, taking your power back." "It doesn't feel powerful," I said. "It feels quiet." "Quiet is good," she said. "Quiet means control." By mid-afternoon, the last of Lena's things were packed. The movers loaded the truck, signing their forms before driving away. The driveway was clear, the air still. Michael stood beside me, flipping through his notes. "Keep these," he said, handing me copies of the trust and the inventory list. "If they ask questions, tell them to speak to me." "They'll ask," I said. "Let them," he replied. "They won't have answers they like." When he left, I locked the front door and stood in the center of the living room. The house looked different, lighter, freer. I could hear the sound of my own breathing again. I walked from room to room, touching the furniture I had chosen, the photographs I had framed, the curtains I had sewn. It all felt like it was waking up. That evening, as the sun began to fall, the kids sat on the porch, eating ice cream and laughing. The lemon tree swayed gently in the wind. I leaned against the doorframe, watching them. They looked at me and smiled. "Grandma, can we stay up late tonight?" "For once," I said. "I think that's a fine idea." The sky turned golden, then soft orange. Inside, the house hummed, quiet but alive, like it had been holding its breath for years and was finally allowed to exhale. I made tea, sat in my favorite chair, and looked around the room that finally belonged to me again. By sunset, my home would be mine again, in every sense. "They're taking the big TV?" "No, leave that, only what they brought." "Which one's hers?" "The gray sectional she bought last year." "Got it, careful on the stairs." I watched them carry the pieces out like removing someone else's life. "That lamp's heavy," one of the men grunted. "Watch the frame," the other said. "That one's fragile." "Is that the vanity?" "Yes, all of her stuff goes in box 3. "You sure you want us touching Grandma's things?" A mover asked, hesitating with a box under his arm. "Those are mine," I answered, voice steady. "Take what's theirs." "All right, ma'am. We'll be careful." "You look calm," Michael said as he set his briefcase on the table. "I am calm," I lied, then smiled to soften it. "We clean the house with a broom. We clean the hurt with paperwork." "That's one way to put it," he said, half smiling. "Inventory everything. Photos, timestamps. Legal proof is neat and clean. Do you want the kids' toys separated?" One mover asked, pausing with a bin of blocks. "Keep the ones the kids brought from their old place," I said. "Pack the new plastic stuff she bought. Clean labels." "Got it." "You keep the postcards," Michael said quietly, almost to himself. "And the old tools in the shed." "Those are hers." "They're mine," I repeated. The words felt small but true. I held an old postcard that had been tucked between recipes. The handwriting was my husband's, faded and tender. I ran a thumb over it like a benediction. "Careful with the picture frames," Carla said as she adjusted a stack of photos. "We need proof you owned these before they moved in." "I have dates," I said. "Receipts, repair notes." "I'll pull them." "Good. Don't let emotion mix with the catalog." "Where's the blue armchair?" one mover asked, puzzled by the space where the new sofa had been. "It was in the shed," I said. "Bring it in. Put it where the sofa was." "You sure?" "Positive." They went fast, professional. Watches tapped, boxes piled. I watched my living room empty of trends and refill with memory. My husband's carved coffee table returned from a dusty corner. The navy armchair, a little threadbare, reclaimed its place near the window. I smoothed the cushions as if smoothing years back into order. "Is that the rug from the wedding?" Carla asked, holding up a faded piece. "Yes, my mother gave it to me." I felt my throat tighten. "That stays." "Good." "You've got photos here from 1993, Michael said, flipping pages. "Yard was nothing but dirt. I planted the lemon tree myself." I smiled at the memory of small hands, little fists reaching for the sun. "We celebrated the day we closed on the place. You can see it in the pictures." "Perfect," he said. "This will make a clear timeline." "It's like stitching a quilt," Carla murmured. "Every piece matters." "Is that the TV?" A mover called from the porch, carrying the large flat screen. "Yes, that one's theirs," I said. Out it goes. "Everything's labeled," the other mover reported, voice steady. "Photos taken for inventory." "Good work," Michael said, watching them load the last boxes. "We'll store their things safely." "Where to?" I asked, watching the truck fill. "To a secure unit for a month," he said. "They'll have access, but you control the key. We document everything." "That sounds fair." I felt lighter hearing that. "How do you feel about the curtains?" Carla asked, holding the modern panels Lena had installed. "Keep them or replace?" "Replace," I said. "Bring back the floral ones." "The house needs warmth, not trends." "Floral it is," she smiled. One of the movers paused at the doorway, watching me arrange a photograph on the mantel. "That's a good picture," he said softly. "It's the one from our wedding," I said. He hated suits. "He looks happy." "Yes." I touched the frame like a prayer. "Lock change in 5, Michael said, checking his watch. "Roberto and Chewy will install the hardware after the truck leaves." "I want the new keys," I said. 3 copies. 1 for me, 1 spare, 1 you keep, Michael. Done. They worked methodically. No drama, no shouting. Just hands and boxes and lists being checked twice. The men wrapped delicate things in newspaper like careful surgeons. For the first time in a long while, the house smelled like lemon and dust and the comfort of things that belong where they are. "Do you want to sit?" Carla asked, noticing my legs had started to ache. "No." I kept moving, placing a knitted throw over the couch my husband liked. Small acts, quiet victories. "Everything recorded," Michael said, handing me a printed inventory. "Photos, dates, descriptions. We kept items that are clearly yours off the list." "Thank you," I said, meaning more than the word could hold. "We left the children's artwork where you could see it," one mover called. "We didn't take the kids' pictures." "Keep them on the fridge," I said. "They built those." "Remember," Carla said, kneeling to help with a stack of cookbooks. "When they ask, you show them this. No yelling, no theatrics, just facts." "Facts are kinder than emotion today," Michael added. "They can't argue with paperwork." I moved through the room, placing things back. The lace doily on, the side table, the chipped mug with blue flowers in the kitchen, the small brass clock on the shelf. Each item clicked into place like a puzzle piece returning home. The modern vase Lena had loved went into the truck. The kids' handmade clay pots stayed on my windowsill. "You did all this?" one mover asked, admiration in his voice. "We did," I said, "but I did most of it once. Now I keep it." The locksmith arrived, a compact man with precise hands. "Where do you want the new lock?" he asked. "Front door," I said. "High security." 3 keys, he confirmed, working with quick, practiced movements. "You want a spare?" "Yes, and a copy to Michael for safekeeping." He fitted the new lock, turned the key in the polished brass. It clicked with a satisfying sound. I slid the old key from my pocket and placed it on the mantel beside a photograph of my husband. For a second, the old key felt like the ghost of habit. Then I set it down and picked up the new one. Cold metal, humming with promise. "Your house looks more like you now," Carla said, placing her hand on my shoulder. "It has your rhythm again." "I can breathe here," I said, the words coming out like a small laugh. "It takes me a while to notice the air." The movers closed the truck doors gently, sealed the padlock, and drove away. The yard felt empty, but not in the way it had before. This was emptiness that made room. The late afternoon light pooled on the floorboards and warmed them. I walked through each room slowly, touching the backs of chairs, the fabric of curtains, the frames on the walls. "You did the right thing," Michael said softly, handing me the final paperwork. "This trust means the house is yours for life." "I know," I said. "It just needed to feel like mine again." "Keep these copies in a safe place," he said. "Email me backups." "I will." That night, I locked the door with the new key and sat in the Navy armchair. The house hummed around me, not empty, but full of the things that told my story. I made tea and warmed a little pie. I felt a quiet settle in my bones, not triumph so much as relief. The walls seemed to breathe with me. I placed the new key on the mantel next to my husband's photo. The lemon tree outside moved in the wind, throwing bright shapes on the yard. I closed my eyes and let the calm in, small and almost sacred. But peace never lasts long. The storm was already on the way back. "The key won't turn," he said, fumbling at the lock. "Try the other one," she snapped, voice thin with impatience. "It's stuck," he muttered, breath quickening. "Maybe it's jammed," she guessed, already stepping back from the door. I stayed in my chair, hands folded, like I was waiting for tea to cool. "You okay?" he called, voice carrying a thread of worry now. "I'm fine," I replied, my voice calm enough to sound ordinary. "Mom?" he called again, louder. "You home?" I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked to the door. The hallway light made their faces look small and confused. The key rattled in David's hand. Lena's smile had the brittle edge of someone who expects a fight to go their way. "Is it jammed?" he asked, shoving the key again. "It's changed," I said, and I could feel the air bend around those words. "You what?" she asked, stepping forward as if she could push me into a mistake. "I changed the lock," I said. "I thought it was time." Their faces shifted, confusion first, then a flicker of anger. "You can't do that," she said, voice sharp now. "You can't just—" "Why not?" I asked, putting my hand on the knob. "It's my house." "It's our home," he said, voice raw. "You can't—" I opened the door. They stared at me like I'd walked out of a memory they'd not been invited to revisit. Lena's suitcase sat on the porch where they'd left it. The hallway smelled faintly of the lotion she used and the perfume she'd worn for the trip. It all felt like evidence. "What's going on?" he asked, stepping in as if the house might explain itself. "Sit," I said, pointing to the armchair. "Sit down, both of you." "What is this?" she demanded, crossing her arms. "Are you doing this to spite us?" I moved to the coffee table and set my phone on top. I hit play. Her voice filled the room, bright and ordinary at first, until it wasn't. "We just have to make sure she stays comfortable," Lena said on the recording, the words sharp and calm. "Keep her busy, praise her, let her feel useful." "That can't be real," she said aloud, breath catching. "That's out of context." "Let it play," I said. My hands were steady. I didn't feel loud. I only felt certain. "She's talking about waiting for me to—" He started, then stopped as the next line came. "And when she finally, well, when she's not here, David will get the deed and will have nothing to worry about." The silence that followed had weight. It pressed into the corners and settled like dust. Everyone inhaled at once. I watched David's face change from confusion to something like grief. Lena's eyes went hard, then glassy. "Why would you say that?" he asked, voice small. "Lena, why would you—" "It's a misunderstanding," she said, rushing forward. "I was talking hypothetically. You can't—" "Hypothetical?" I echoed. "How do you talk like that about your husband's mother?" "You're making this bigger than it is," she snapped, shaking her head. "You're trying to ruin us." "Ruin?" I repeated, quiet now. "You're the one who filmed me without asking." "She was fine with it," she said, looking to David for support. "Did I say I was fine?" I asked. "Did I sign anything?" David's hands curled into fists at his sides. He looked like the boy who used to hide his tears under blankets. I remembered holding him when he had nightmares. The memory steadied me. "Play it again," he said suddenly, voice trembling. "Play it again." I pressed the button. "Lena's—" Voice came out, clearer this time, planning, methodical, almost proud. "If she makes a will, then we move quicker. We pressure. Make it seem unnecessary. We keep her away from lawyers." He made a small sound that could have been a laugh or a sob. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear to God I didn't know." "You laughed at the video yesterday," I said. "I heard you. You laughed with her." He looked away, ashamed. "I thought it was a joke. I didn't listen." "You filmed me," I said, and this time the words were not an accusation, but a fact. "You used my kitchen and my work so strangers could laugh." "Mom, he began, but he had no words that fit. "Where are your manners?" Lena demanded, anger flaring. "You can't just—" "Silence," I said. My voice cut through the room like a knife, but without heat. "Listen to the whole thing." She faltered as the recording continued. "We'll make a case for contribution. 5 years under our roof counts. We can argue possession." You planned to steal my life," I said. The words tasted like iron. A tight knock sounded at the door. Michael stepped in, briefcase in hand, calm and precise. He closed the door softly and moved to the table. "I've come as planned," he said, eyes on the phone. I heard audio was involved. "Michael," David breathed, relief and fear tangled. "I told you I'd be here," he added, looking at me. "We need to stay civil." "Civil," Lena repeated, voice shrill now. "How can you be civil when she's doing this?" "She changed the lock," Michael said, matter of fact. "She owns the property. She has acted within her rights." "That doesn't mean you get to—" she began. "Let me speak," Michael said. He laid out a folder on the table and handed them copies. "This is a living trust. Mrs. Lewis executed it last week. She is the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. That means the house remains hers during her life. No one can transfer it while she's alive." "She did what?" David asked, looking from the paper to me. "You did this without telling me?" "I did it because you laughed," I said simply. "I did it because someone planned my absence like a step in a ladder." "She can't just lock us out," Lena protested, voice thin. "Legally, she can," Michael replied. "There's no lease. Your stay here was by goodwill. There are conditions in the documents: rent, chores, and respect if you choose to remain." "She's trying to humiliate us," Lena spat. "This is revenge." "Revenge is a poor word," I said. "I called a lawyer because I wanted control. I wanted to be safe. I wanted respect." "You should have talked to us," David said, grief heavy in his voice. "You should have told me." "I told you I felt invisible," I said. "You heard me and you laughed." He sank into the armchair, head in his hands. Lena stayed standing, face pale. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone as if to film, then stopped mid-motion. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I'll get the police." "Call them," Michael said, steady. "Tell them everything. Bring your proof. But the trust is valid. The inventory proves what was removed. The storage unit details are documented. This is legal." "Is there nothing we can do?" she asked, eyes rimmed. "Please." "Right now," Michael said, "there's a choice. You can accept the terms. Pay rent. Help around the house. Delete the video publicly and apologize. Or you can leave and collect your belongings from the storage unit within 30 days. "That's blackmail," she hissed. "You can't force us to call it boundaries," I said. "I'm not kicking my son out. I'm asking for respect and honesty." "Respect?" David looked up, tear tracks on his face. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't know." I should have known." "You can be sorry," I said. "Sorrow isn't the same as action." He swallowed, voice small. "Tell me what to do." "Start by being honest," I said. "Delete the video. Talk to a lawyer if you want. Apologize." "And Lena?" he asked, glancing at her. "What about her?" "What she does is her choice," Michael said. "You decide if she stays." "She filmed my life without permission," I said. "She planned for my absence like it was insurance. She made me a character. That's not family." "I never—" Lena began. "You thought wrong," I interrupted, softer than I felt. "You thought it was a game." Her shoulders shook. "I'm sorry," she said, the words raw and basic. "I'm sorry. I want a real apology," I said. "Not for the followers, not for the likes, for me." She looked at me and then at David. The room closed in on that moment. The recording, the papers, the emptied rooms. Choices hung in the air like knives. "We'll decide," David said finally, standing slowly. He looked older than his years. "We'll do what you ask." "You mean it?" I asked, watching him. "I mean it," he said, voice certain now. "I'm sorry, Mom, I'll fix this." Lena didn't speak at first. When she did, it was a whisper. "I'll delete it. I'll apologize." "Then start now," I said. "Do it in front of me." She fumbled with her phone, fingers trembling, and the screen lit her face. She scrolled, found the post, and with hands that betrayed her, tapped delete. She typed a short video and looked up. "I'm sorry," she said into the camera, voice breaking. I was cruel. I didn't know how to be better. The apology went out into a world that had watched her first take everything from me. Now they watched her try to return it. Whether it would be accepted was another story. For the first time that day, the room felt like it might breathe again. They had to choose now, respect or exile. David stood with his back to me, head bowed, his fingers tangled in his hair. Lena sat on the edge of the couch, her arms crossed tight. The silence between them was brittle, too thin to hold much longer. "Here's how this goes," I said quietly, sliding a folder onto the table. "If you stay here, you do it by my rules." "Rules?" Lena snapped, her voice cracking like glass. "You're acting like we're tenants." "You are," I said. "Starting now." David lifted his head, his eyes red but steady. "What do you mean?" "I mean rent," I said. "Half the utilities, shared chores. No more freeloading." "Mom, that's fair," I interrupted. "It's fair." He exhaled, shoulders slumping. "Okay, we can do that." Lena turned toward him, her tone sharp. "David, you can't be serious. Rent? For living in your mother's house?" "It's her house," he said, voice low. "She proved that." "She manipulated, she protected herself," he cut in. "You don't get to call that manipulation." I watched the argument unfold like an old wound reopening. I wasn't angry anymore, not the way I'd been before. I felt something colder, quieter, understanding maybe. "I don't want revenge," I said softly, and they both looked at me. "I just want respect, the kind that doesn't need to be begged for." David nodded, silent. Lena rolled her eyes but said nothing. "There's more," I continued. "You'll delete that video, every copy, and you'll post an apology, publicly." Her head jerked up. "What?" "An apology," I repeated. "To me and to every stranger you invited into my home to laugh at me." "You're humiliating me," she shouted. "I'm giving you a chance," I said. "To be better." David spoke before she could. "We'll do it. She'll do it." Lena's mouth fell open. "You can't just decide that for me." "Then leave," he said quietly. "Go stay with your mother." "I'm not doing this again." That shut her up. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of the ceiling fan. "I'll post the apology," she said finally, her voice small. "If that's what it takes." "It's not about what it takes," I said. "It's about what's right." Her hands clenched in her lap. "You've made your point," she muttered. "No," I said. "I'm not sure I have. You mocked me online for doing nothing, for being old. But you've lived under my roof for years. I cooked for your children. I helped you when you couldn't pay your bills. Did that mean nothing?" Her eyes flicked toward me, guilt passing through them like a shadow. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she whispered. "But it did," I said. "And now you'll make it right." David rubbed his temples. "I'll handle the rent transfers. You'll have everything by the 1st. "Good," I said. "And the chores, those aren't optional. You both live here, you both help. No more dirty dishes piled up for me to clean." He nodded. "Understood." Lena stayed silent. For a moment, I thought about all the years I'd spent caring for this house. Every nail, every wall painted by hand. I remembered my husband's laugh echoing through these same rooms and the way he'd say, "Home is where respect lives." It felt true now more than ever. "Can we start over?" David asked, voice low, careful. "I mean, not pretend this didn't happen. Just start again, better." "I hope so," I said honestly. "But you'll have to earn it." He nodded. "I know." Lena stood abruptly. "I'll go delete the video now," she muttered. "It's what you want, right?" "What I want," I said, "is for you to understand what you did. Deleting a file doesn't erase the harm." She hesitated at the doorway. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for what I said, for how I made you look." "Sorry isn't the same as changed," I said, "but it's a start." As she walked upstairs, David stayed behind. staring at the papers on the table, the trust, the receipts, the proof of everything I'd had to do to protect myself. "You shouldn't have had to go that far," he said finally. "I had to," I replied. "You wouldn't have believed me otherwise." He looked down, shame written all over him. "You're right." "I know," I said, not cruelly. "But I wish I wasn't." For the first time he smiled, faint, broken, but real. "You're tougher than anyone gives you credit for." "I learned from life," I said. "It doesn't hand out kindness without asking for strength in return." We sat there for a moment, neither of us speaking. The tension had drained, leaving something heavier but honest between us. "Do you think she'll change?" he asked. "I think she's capable of it," I said. "But only if she chooses to." "And if she doesn't?" "Then you'll have to decide where you stand," I said. "Because this house runs on respect now. Not entitlement." Upstairs, I heard the faint sound of her phone. A few clicks, a sigh, then silence. When she came back down, she held up the screen. "It's gone," she said, "and the apologies posted." "Good," I said. "Now start acting like you mean it." She nodded, avoiding my eyes. I'll make dinner tonight." "That's a start," I said. "We'll eat together." David exhaled softly, like a man finally releasing a breath he'd been holding for years. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not giving up on me." "I almost did," I admitted. "But family doesn't end over mistakes. It ends when people stop trying to fix them." I turned to leave, pausing by the doorway. "Tomorrow we start fresh. Rent, chores, respect, no exceptions?" "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly. "Yes," Lena murmured. When I reached my room, I finally let myself sit. The house was still. My hands trembled, but not from anger, from release. For the first time in months, it felt like my home again. Not a battleground, but a place where truth had been spoken aloud. It wasn't revenge that warmed me. It was peace. A peace earned through pain, not given through pity. But remorse means little without redemption. Lena sat at the kitchen table, her phone propped up against a mug. The little red light on the camera blinked, steady and merciless. "I don't know where to start," she said, her voice trembling. "I guess, with the truth." David stood behind her, silent, arms folded. I stayed by the window, watching sunlight spill across the floor. The same light that had once made this kitchen feel warm, before all the noise. "I made a video that hurt someone who never deserved it," Lena continued. "I mocked a woman who built this home with her own hands, who raised my husband when she had nothing. I thought it was funny. I thought I was clever, but I was cruel." Her voice broke. For a moment she covered her face, shoulders shaking. David reached out, but she pushed his hand away, wanting to finish it alone. "I said things online that made people laugh," she said quietly. "But behind every laugh was a lie. The truth is, I wouldn't have anything, not this home, not my family, without her. And I was too proud to see that." I could hear her breathing between words, uneven and real. For once there was no performance. "I'm sorry, Margaret," she whispered. "I'm sorry for disrespecting you, for embarrassing you, for forgetting who you are. You deserved better from me." She ended the recording with a shaky hand. David exhaled slowly. "That was good," he said softly. "Honest." Lena looked up at him, red-eyed. "Do you think it's enough?" "No," I said from across the room. "But it's a start." She turned toward me, swallowing hard. "I mean it," she said. "Every word." "I know," I said. "I can tell." "I don't expect forgiveness," she murmured. "Good," I replied. "Because forgiveness isn't a gift. It's earned." She nodded, silent. David's hand finally rested on her shoulder, and this time, she didn't pull away. That night, the video went live. She titled it "My Apology." It spread faster than I ever expected. The comments poured in, some kind, some cruel, all watching. Finally, some accountability. She's brave for owning up. She should have thought before posting the first one. My phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't reply to any of it. By morning, people online were calling her the daughter-in-law who learned her lesson, and me, the grandmother who took her dignity back. I didn't like either title. They both felt too big, too neat. Life was never neat. "Have you seen this?" David asked, showing me his phone. A viral story filled the screen. A woman narrating Lena's apology, stitching it with clips of the old TikTok. Her caption read, "Respect isn't owed by age, it's earned by grace, and she has it." That's Ruby, I said quietly, recognizing the voice. My cousin. She runs a lifestyle channel. She's defending you, he said, scrolling. It's all over now. Lena looked up from her coffee. All over? It's barely started. Her words were right. My name was suddenly everywhere, in comment sections, in articles, even on morning shows. People are making edits of you, David said. Clips from old videos, even your garden photos from Facebook. I didn't give them permission, I murmured. They're calling you a hero, he said, smiling faintly. I'm not one, I replied. I just asked to be respected. Lena shifted uncomfortably. Everyone's saying I'm the villain. They're right, I guess. Let them say what they want, I said. You don't control what people remember. You only control what you do next. She nodded, tears pooling again. I hate that it took all this to make me see it. Most lessons hurt before they heal, I said softly. That's how we know they're real. For a moment, we just sat in that quiet, the three of us, the hum of the fridge between us, the house finally still. Later that day, Ruby called. I hope I didn't overstep, she said quickly. The story's blowing up. Everyone's talking about you. I noticed, I said, half smiling. You made quite the headline. I wanted people to know what you did, she said. How you stood your ground without hate. I didn't want attention, I said. Just peace. Sometimes peace finds you through noise, Ruby said gently. People need stories like yours. After we hung up, I scrolled through the flood of messages. Strangers thanking me for inspiring them. Older women saying they felt seen. Young ones admitting they hadn't realized how their words could wound. It was strange. I'd spent months feeling invisible, and now the world was staring straight at me. That night, I sat on the porch while the sun dipped behind the lemon tree. The air was heavy with late summer warmth. Inside, David and Lena were putting the kids to bed. Their laughter drifted faintly through the open window. For the first time, I didn't feel anger when I heard her voice. I felt something like hope. Maybe thin, maybe fragile, but real. Still, as the notifications kept lighting up my phone, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. People were turning my pain into content, my quiet reclaiming into a symbol. They didn't know the loneliness behind it, or the long nights spent wondering if I was the one who'd failed somewhere along the way. I'd gotten what I wanted, respect. But fame, even the quiet kind, carries its own kind of weight. Sometimes, being seen by too many eyes feels a lot like being trapped under glass. And as the porch lights flickered on, I realized something new was coming, something beyond apology or repair. Because not all attention feels like peace. Hello, Mrs. Harper? This is Sarah from Morning Light. Do you have a moment? Yes, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I do. We've been following your story, she said, warm and careful. Would you consider an interview? We'd like to share your perspective. I don't know about cameras, I replied. I don't want to be in the middle of anything. That's fine, she said quickly. We can film you from the back, voice only if you prefer. Your story, your words, that's what matters. Let me think, I said, and I did. I thought about the late-night recording, the trust papers, the way my house felt like mine again. I thought about the messages that had already started arriving. All right, I said finally. But I'll sit with my back to the camera. When would you be available? Tomorrow morning, I answered. 9. Perfect. We'll bring lights, but we'll keep it discreet. Thank you, I said. And Sarah, please be gentle. We will, she promised. You really going to do this? David asked later, leaning against the doorframe. If I don't, someone else will tell my story for me, I said. I want to do it my way. You don't have to be brave, he said. Not for us. I'm not doing it for bravery, I replied. I'm doing it because other women need to hear this. The next morning, the crew arrived quietly. Sarah greeted me with a soft smile and a notepad. She placed a microphone near my chair and asked if I was comfortable. I took a deep breath and sat facing the window, my back toward the camera. Tell me about the morning you saw the video, she said. I was making coffee, I began, voice low. The house smelled like cinnamon. I sat down and opened the app. That must have been a strange feeling, she said, listening. It was like someone had taken my life and folded it into a joke, I said. Years of work, of keeping a home became a punchline. Why did you choose silence at first? She asked. I thought being quiet kept the peace, I said. I thought if I smiled, if I kept helping, they'd never leave. I was wrong. You planned carefully, she noted. You didn't lash out. I learned to wait, I said. Not because I was weak, but because I had to be sure. Anger without direction only makes more noise. What do you want women to take away from this? She asked, voice steady. That they don't have to disappear to keep the peace, I said. That kindness isn't permission to be used. And that it's never too late to protect what's yours. You mentioned the recording, she said. How did that feel to have as proof? It felt like a small miracle, I admitted. Proof doesn't erase hurt, but it makes the truth undeniable. Did you expect such a big reaction? She asked. No, I said plainly. I expected maybe a few messages, not postcards from strangers, not calls from people I haven't seen in decades. How did that feel? Odd, I said. Useful and uncomfortable at the same time. I didn't want attention. I wanted respect, but the attention brought other women forward. You've had messages? She asked. Hundreds. I paused, thinking of a stack of notes by my phone. Women who told me they'd been taken for granted, who never thought to ask for help. Men who said they hadn't realized the cost their mothers carried. That must have been powerful, she said. It was, I said. Some messages made me cry. Others made me laugh. One woman wrote that she'd finally told her son she needed help with repairs, and he listened. That's the kind of thing that matters. Do you fear any backlash? She asked. Online attention can be unpredictable. I do, I admitted. Some people will always see things differently, but I'd rather face a few hard words than keep living small. Your son and daughter-in-law are part of the story, she said. How are they now? They're repairing, I said. Repair takes time. It takes honesty and action. Did the apology help? She asked. It was necessary, I said. But apologies alone don't fix patterns. They are the beginning, not the end. What would you say to someone watching, older or younger, who feels invisible? You are not invisible, I said firmly. You may feel small, but you are not. Speak to one person you trust. Keep records of what matters to you. And don't assume that age means silence. After the interview, Sarah thanked me and left gently. The crew packed up without fuss. I sat with my hands folded, feeling the weight of the morning. Not heavy, but present. David hugged me then, in a way that said he was here, fully awake. The episode aired that evening. I watched it with my back to the image on the television, eyes on the window's reflection instead. Messages began arriving within minutes. One after another, the phone buzzed on the side table. I read them aloud to David. Thank you for showing me it's not too late. You gave me courage. My mother sent this. She's 74 and she's finally going to talk to a lawyer. Ruby called, laughing through tears. You made people cry in a good way, she said. The comments are full of women sharing their stories. That wasn't why I did it, I said. But I'm glad it helped someone. The messages kept coming. Women sent photos of their hands, worn and strong. Men wrote that they'd called their mothers and listened. A teacher told me she used my story in a class about respect. A stranger sent a simple note. I saw my grandmother differently today. It felt strange to be the center of so many moments that weren't mine. I hadn't asked for headlines. I had asked to be seen. Yet every new message added a small weight. Gratitude, yes, but also responsibility. Responsibility to be careful with the story that now carried others. That night, as the house settled and the lemon tree shadowed the porch, I felt something I hadn't expected. My pain had turned into power for others. It was a strange alchemy, sorrow becoming the seed for courage. I felt honored and oddly tired. There was still one thing I wanted, a small private thing that no camera could capture. One apology still sat heavy in my chest, not public, but personal, not spoken to the world, but to the one who had looked at me and laughed. I held the phone and stared at the screen, the last message of the night blinking unopened. I can't sleep, he whispered from the doorway, voice rough. It's late, I said, not turning from the window. Sit if you want. I don't deserve a seat in here. You're still my son. Sit. He lowered himself onto the edge of the navy armchair like it might reject him. His hands wouldn't stay still. They twisted his wedding band, then the hem of his sleeve, then nothing at all. I'm sorry, he said, the words stumbling. I kept thinking it would get easier to say. It doesn't. Truth rarely gets easier, I said. It only gets clearer. I was a coward. Yes, I said softly. You were. He flinched but didn't move. I watched her film you, he said. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself you liked helping. I did like helping, I answered. until it became the only thing I was allowed to be. I let that happen. You allowed it, I said. But I taught you I would carry it. That's on me too. He rubbed his eyes with the heel of his hand. I heard the recording again this afternoon, he said. I listened to every second. I kept thinking, a good husband would have known. A good son would have known. But I didn't know, Mom. I didn't want to know. Wanting not to know is its own choice, I said. I know, he whispered. That's what shames me. The clock ticked like a soft metronome behind us. The house was quiet around the edges, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm has passed, but before the earth decides if it will grow again. I laughed, he said. That's the part I can't forgive in myself. I laughed. You did, I said, and it cut deep. I keep seeing you at the sink, he said, eyes shining. Back turned, apron on. The angle in the video, you looked small, and I made you smaller with my laugh. I've been small on purpose for a long time, I said. I thought it kept us together. It kept me lazy, he said. I let you be the shield, the cook, the sitter, the fixer, the one who picked up all the dropped pieces. Because it was easy. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, head in his hands. I was supposed to protect you, he said. Not make you beg for basic respect. I didn't beg, I said. I planned. You did, he said, the hint of a smile trembling. You planned me into the truth. I let the line of my breath settle before I spoke again. What do you want from me, David? I asked. What are you really here to say? I want you to know I see you, he said. Not the version I liked, the soft, always yes mother, but the woman who built this house. The woman who buried her husband and went to work anyway. The woman I should have stood beside. You were a child when I built this place, I said. You're not a child now. I haven't acted like a man, he said. Not the kind I want to be. He swallowed hard. I kept thinking, if I pushed back on Lena, we'd fight more. If I told her no, she'd say I chose you over her. If I told you to rest, you'd say you were fine. So I chose silence. I hid inside convenience. Silence is a choice, I said. I made it for years. Look where it brought me. Look where it brought us, he corrected, meeting my eyes. We almost lost each other. His voice dropped. When you played that recording, he said, I thought something inside me would crack open and pour out. It did. I didn't even know how to stand in that room with my own shame. You stood, I said. Then you agreed to the rules. I did, he said. I meant it. Rent's already scheduled. I cleaned the bathroom today. And the apology? I know it didn't fix anything, but it proved a door can open, I said. Not that someone will walk through. That takes time. He stared at his hands. I'm scared, he said. That you'll never trust me again. Trust isn't a door, I said. It's a path. We'll walk it or we won't. I'll walk, he said quickly. I'll do anything it takes. Good, I said. Then start with the simplest thing. Tell me the truth when it's ugly. He nodded, throat working. Here's the ugliest truth, he said. Sometimes I wanted you to keep doing everything because it meant I didn't have to. I could be tired from work and hand you the kids, and you'd smile. I told myself you liked it. That lie made me comfortable. The best lies feel like kindness, I said. They're not. No, he said. They're not. I shifted to face him. The lamp threw a soft ring of light across the floor, touching the corner of his shoe and the edge of my skirt. You're my son, I said. That means I remember your first fever and your first A, and the way you cried when the dog ran away and the way you stood at graduation. It also means I hold you to a higher standard than any man on earth. I want that, he said, tears slipping free. Hold me there. Don't let me slide back. He let out a breath like a held weight. I've been seeing a counselor, he said, almost shy. I didn't want to tell you until I went more than once. Today was session 3. What did you learn? That I make peace by avoiding conflict, he said. And that avoidance turns into disrespect for the person carrying the load. What else? That I learned a broken version of love, he said. That love meant you did everything, and I said thank you. That's not love. That's service. That's survival, I said. For a while. Then it breaks. He rubbed his face and laughed through the wet. I told the counselor about the lemon tree, he said. About the bench. About the night I heard Lena in the yard. I told him I heard more than words that night. I heard the sound of my mother's patience ending. It didn't end, I said. It changed shape. Into steel, he said, smiling. Into rules. He grew serious again. What do you need from me tomorrow? He asked. Pick something small. Breakfast, I said. Make it, and no shortcuts. Wipe the counters, not just the crumbs you can see. Deal, he said, almost relieved. And tell the kids why you're cooking, I added. Tell them men cook because they love, not because someone else is tired. I will, he said. I promise. We sat quietly, the space between us no longer a wound, but a stitch being pulled through with care. Do you hate her? He asked suddenly. No, I said after a beat. Hate is heavy. I'm too old to carry it. I don't trust her yet. That's different. Do you think we'll make it? I don't know, I said. Do you both want to change? I do, he said. She says she does. I can't vouch for both of us. You don't have to, I said. You only have to vouch for yourself. His shoulders loosened, like the sentence took a weight he'd been trying to lift for years. I keep seeing you at the lawyer's table, he said. Signing papers without me. It hurts, but I'm proud. I didn't know you were afraid of anything until that day. I was terrified, I said, smiling at the truth of it. I thought I'd be punished for choosing myself. You were rewarded, he said softly. You got you back. He looked toward the hallway, toward the closed door where the children slept. I told them a story tonight, he said, about a woman who built a house and then built a boundary. I didn't say your name. They knew anyway. What did they say? They asked if I would build too, he said, his voice steady. I told them yes. He stood, then sat again, then stood once more like he had to practice leaving. Can I hug you? He asked. Yes, I said. Come here. He crossed the room in 2 long steps and folded himself down to me, head against my shoulder like he had when he was small and feverish. I held him. My hands remembered the routine without trying. One hand on the back of his head, one slow circle between his shoulders, a quiet hush that said, You're safe and you're seen. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered into my sweater. For laughing, for leaving you alone with everything, for not being the son you raised. You're here, I whispered back. Be the man you're choosing now. I will, he said. I swear. We stayed like that until his breathing evened. When he pulled back, his eyes were red but clear. I'm going to speak to Lena, he said. Not to fight, to be honest about what I will and won't be. Good, I said. Honesty is kinder than pretending. If it breaks, he said, I want you to know it's not because of you. It's because truth asks a price. Truth always does, I said. Pay it or it collects interest. He managed a small laugh and kissed my forehead. I'll make breakfast, he said. And I'll tell them why. I'll be at the table, I said. Watching. Hold me accountable, he added. I intend to, I said, and we both smiled, soft and new. He started down the hall, then paused with his hand on the doorframe. I love you, he said, not looking back like a boy, but forward like a man. I love you, I answered, letting the words settle in the room like warm air after rain. When he was gone, I stayed in the chair and listened to the house breathe. The lemon tree brushed the window. The clock kept its slow promise. I felt the bridge between us, not rebuilt in a day, but anchored, plank by plank, under our feet. I should have felt complete. I felt grateful. I also felt the shape of something ending, like a shadow lifting off a field. Some truths repair what was broken. Other truths clear a path you didn't want to walk. From the bedroom down the hall, a suitcase zipper slid open and shut. A drawer closed with care. Fabric rustled like a small storm gathering its own weather. Sit down, he said, voice low and careful. I don't want to sit, she snapped, pacing the living room like she could walk the problem into someone else. Then stand, he replied. But listen. I watched them from the kitchen doorway, my hands folded around a mug that had gone cold. The light in the room made them look smaller, like 2 halves of a broken picture. I can't keep pretending everything's fine, he said. What are you on about now? She shot back. We just had a weekend away. I thought, you posted that video, he said. You lied about things. You planned the way you spoke about my mother. It was content, she answered sharp. It's how I make money. You know that. Not at the cost of her dignity, he said. Not in our house. You made it sound worse than it was, she said, eyes flashing. You agreed with me yesterday. I laughed, he said slowly, and I was wrong. I'm telling you now, I can't live pretending I didn't hear it. The children were in the other room building a fort from couch cushions, blissfully ignorant. Their giggles threaded through the argument like a cord out of tune. I felt both the ache and the blessing of their laughter. "You want a divorce?" she asked suddenly, as if the word could ground them. "No," he said. "I want time. I think we need space to figure out who we are without hurting the people we love." "Space," she repeated, voice cracking. "You're asking me to leave." "I'm asking us to pause," he said. "I can't keep lying to myself that everything's okay." "You can't just kick me out," she said, hurt and fury tangled together. "I'm not kicking you out," he said. "I'm asking for time, for you to go back to your mother's for a bit, to think about what you did and why. The kids stay here." The room spun a little for me, not from shock, but from a strange clarity. The house that had felt heavy for months seemed to draw a breath. I looked at the children through the doorway. Their eyes were bright, unconcerned. My heart eased a fraction. "You can't keep them," she cried. "You know that. You can't just—" "They are safer here," he said, "with their grandmother." "They're my children too," she said, voice small now. "I don't want to lose them." "You won't lose them," he said. "You'll visit. You'll have weekends. But for now, we need a reset." "How is leaving my children a reset?" she demanded. "That's punishment." "It's a chance," he said. "For you, for me, for everyone." I stepped into the doorway then, feeling the air change as if a window had been opened. My voice was quieter than I expected. "If you're going, pack what you need. Don't take what belongs here." She looked at me like I'd surprised her into silence. "You want me out?" "I want safety in this house," I said. "For my grandchildren, for my peace. That means boundaries." She grabbed a small tote and shoved in a few clothes, mascara, a pair of sandals. There was a frantic edge to the movement, like someone trying to gather a life into a single bag. David watched, his jaw tight, the man who had finally learned to stand. "I didn't intend to hurt her," she said at last, voice raw. "I didn't think you did," he said. "And now we need to repair." "Are you sure about this?" I asked him quietly later, after the taxi had been called and the suitcases sat by the door. "I am," he said, folding his hands as if that would still his shaking. "I can't be the kind of man who laughs while his mother is being mocked." She turned at the threshold, tears already on her cheeks. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I'm trying to make a living." "How you make it matters," he answered. "I can't watch my kids learn that disrespect is clever." The taxi idled outside. She grabbed the children and hugged them in a flurry of kisses and promises. Kyla buried her face in her mother's shirt and Sam clung to her leg. The sight stove something tender and sharp in me. "Be good for Grandma," she whispered to them, voice breaking. "We will," Kyla said, as if the simplicity of truth could make things okay. "Love you," Sam added, tiny and fierce. She turned to him then, eyes searching. "Will you come see me?" "I'll come," he said. "We just need the space to be honest." She climbed into the taxi, the car pulling away with a soft sigh. I stood on the porch watching the tail lights until they vanished. The yard felt huge and quiet and clean, like a room after furniture is carried out. Inside, the kids ran to me, breathless with stories about the fort and the cartoon hero. They wanted snacks, a story, someone to tuck the blanket under their chins. I made tea and cut apples, hands moving with the ease of routine. Their warmth filled the house in a way that was almost holy. "Grandma, can we sleep in the big bed?" Kyla asked, eyes wide. "Of course," I said. "We'll make it a slumber party." "Yay!" Sam cheered. That night, the house felt both empty and full. I sat at the kitchen table with the lamp low and watched them play before I read them a story. David came in and washed a stack of dishes without asking. He hummed a tune I remembered from his childhood. The rhythm of ordinary tasks felt like stitches closing a wound. "You okay?" he asked as he dried a plate, eyes on the sink. "I am," I said. "It hurts, but there's peace too." "I know," he said. "Me too." We ate a quiet dinner. There was no arguing, only simple conversation about school projects and what to pack for tomorrow. He told me about the counselor appointment he'd kept, about a small step he'd taken to be different. I told him about the mail full of notes from women who'd seen the interview. We both breathed into the silence between sentences like it was something fragile to protect. Before bed, I tucked them in and smoothed hair, listening to them breathe shallow and steady. Their presence was a balm. I was glad for the chance to show them how a home could hold them without being worn out. When I returned to the living room, David was by the window, staring out at the lemon tree. The night air pressed its cool face to the glass. "You did well today," I said, joining him. "I did what I had to," he said. "For them. For you." "You did more than that," I replied. "You chose." He looked at me, the man I had raised, and the son I was still learning. "I'm sorry for letting you carry it so long." "You're here now," I said. "That matters." We stood there a while, the house breathing around us. I felt sorrow for what had ended, and relief for what had begun. The separation was heavy, a loss of convenience, of shared rooms and short conversations. But it was also a clearing, a space where things could grow differently. A soft knock sounded on the front door just as I turned to leave for the night. It was light, almost hesitant. I froze, the sound threading through the quiet like a question. The knock was gentle. I almost didn't move at first. Then I heard her breath on the porch, small, unsure. "Hello?" I called, setting down the cup I'd been nursing. "It's Lena." Her voice cracked like a twig. "May I come in?" I opened the door. She stood there with a coat too thin for the season and eyes that looked like they had been scrubbed raw. The woman who had once barged through with a confident smile now looked fragile, held together with slow, careful stitches. "You came a long way," I said. "Come inside." She stepped over the threshold like someone stepping back into a place they had once damaged and wanted to mend. Her hands twisted the strap of her bag. "I wasn't sure I could do it," she said, voice small. "But I needed to say thank you." "For what?" I asked, closing the door behind her. The house smelled like lemon and reheated coffee. The afternoon light made everything softer. "For standing up," she said, eyes dropping. "For protecting the children and for making me face what I did." "You don't owe me thanks," I heard myself say. "You owe the people you hurt your honesty." "I know," she whispered. "I know that now." We sat at the kitchen table. I poured coffee and handed her a mug. Her hands shook when she took it, and I remembered them tiny and sticky with jam years before. She looked older, tired in a way honesty makes you. "I've been seeing someone," she said after a moment. "Therapy." "That's good," I said. "Hard, but good." She nodded. "It's taught me that I used people to feel safe. That I thought being clever was the same as being right." "You use shame as a shortcut," I said. "That was the worst part." "I know," she said again. "I used you for content. I made you a joke. I didn't see how cruel I was." There was a pause full of small sounds. The kettle, a distant car, the tick of the clock. I watched her face change as she said the words I had wanted for months. Saying them had made her smaller in a good way, less sharp, more honest. "I'm sorry," she said finally, the apology bare and true. "I don't want to fix it with words alone. I want to change." "You said that before," I said, careful. "Actions matter." "I know." She swallowed. "I've been going to sessions twice a week. I wrote an apology and posted it. I said things in public, but the private work is harder. I had to look at myself and see the part I liked that made people uncomfortable." "That's the work," I said. "Public apologies are easy when you want to save face. Quiet work is when you change who you are." She looked at me, and for the first time I saw no shield of performance. "I wanted applause," she admitted. "I wanted numbers and comments. I thought that meant value." "Value isn't counted in likes," I said. "It's counted in how you treat the people under your roof." Her eyes filled. "I'm trying to learn that." "You don't get a clean slate just because you say you're sorry," I told her. "You earn trust back by showing up and by stepping aside when you're asked to." "I understand." Her voice was a whisper of someone learning to breathe differently. "That's why I came. To ask for a start. To ask if you'll let me try." I let the silence sit with us. I thought of the long nights and the small sacrifices, of the way I'd folded my life around them. I thought of the recording, the trust papers, the moment the house became mine again. I felt the weight of giving space to someone who had hurt me. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. "If you want to try," I said at last, "you need to accept boundaries." "What does that look like?" she asked, leaning forward as if she were reading a map I'd drawn. "It looks like honesty with David first," I said. "No more filming in the house without permission. No more using our family as content. You keep appointments with your counselor. You show up for the chores you agreed to. And when you falter, you tell the truth instead of covering it." She nodded so fast I thought she might choke. "I can do that." "And one more thing," I added. You will not speak of my life for engagement. My story isn't a prop. She reached for my hand across the table and I let her. I will guard that, she said. I promise. The air between us felt like thaw. Not all the ice had melted, but the sun had found a crack. She talked about waking up in the middle of the night and replaying the TikTok, the way a small joke ballooned into a storm. She spoke of followers who turned condemning and the shame that followed. She said therapy had made her face patterns, how she chased visible validation because inside she felt hollow. I listened and sometimes I offered a short word, a nod. Mostly I listened. Listening was part of what I'd needed from her. Do you regret it? I asked quietly, wanting to know her truth. Yes, she said without hesitation. I regret that I made your life a spectacle. I regret I didn't see you. That matters, I said. Regret opens the door, but it doesn't make things right. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I know, I have to do the work. I want you to know I don't expect forgiveness overnight. You won't be forgiven for a post, I said. You'll be forgiven for a life that proves change. She held my gaze. Would you let me sit with the kids sometimes? Not as a free babysitter, but as part of learning. I want to be present. I want to show them I can be better. That's a start, I said. Start small. Be consistent. David walked in then, quiet as a man who'd been given back a page of his life. He paused when he saw Lena at the table. No anger flashed, only a watchful hope. He set his coat aside and sat without words, like a mediator between two fragile pieces. She came by, he said simply. I thought she might. You did the right thing by coming here, he told her. If you're sincere, we'll see it. I am, she said, voice steadying. I know it'll take time. We talked for hours that afternoon, not about the video or the fallout in detail, but about how to live differently. She asked practical things, how chores would be split, how to apologize to the children in a way that didn't make them feel guilty, how to respect the home without performative gestures. We set small rules. We agreed on therapy updates. We planned a way for her to prove consistency. She left with a small list and a heavier heart, but a lighter step than when she'd arrived. After the door closed, I stood at the sink and felt the quiet of the house settle like a soft blanket. The lemon tree outside threw last light over the yard. I felt both sorrow for what had been and relief for what might be. Change had begun at a slow, honest pace. That, more than any headline, mattered. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't forgetting. Perhaps it was choosing peace day by day, act by act. Dig here, Kyla said, thrusting the small trowel into the soft earth. Not like that, Sam. You're making a hole for the basil, not a swimming pool. Basil likes baths, Sam insisted, his mouth full of dirt and conviction. Basil doesn't like baths, I said, laughing. It likes sunlight and a little talking. Do you talk to plants, Grandma? Kyla asked, eyes wide. I do, I answered. I tell them secrets so they grow brave. Like what? Sam leaned closer, hands cupped ready to receive whatever magic I offered. Like how the lemon tree was lonely until someone planted it beside the house. Who planted it? Kyla wanted to know. I did, I said. When your dad was 5. I wanted something that would always give back. Lemons for pies, shade for naps, and a place for secrets. Is that why we have lemon pie? Sam asked, hopeful. That, and because your grandma makes a mean pie, David called from the porch, drying his hands on a towel. Don't get too excited, kids. You'll have to help me set the oven right. We will. They shouted together, then turned back to the herbs as if the pie were a promised land at the end of the row. Show me where the rosemary goes, David said, crouching beside Kyla. Right here, next to the thyme, Kyla announced, like a tiny gardener already in charge. You're doing great, I said, watching them plant, the motions small and perfect. Grandma? Kyla asked, voice softer now. Why doesn't Mommy live here like before? I paused with a packet of seeds between my fingers. The question landed like a pebble in the pond of my chest. She's learning, I said finally, choosing words like stones to cross a stream. Sometimes adults make mistakes. They hurt people, and then they have to learn how not to hurt them again. Did she hurt you? Sam's question was blunt and honest. She did a little, I said. She said things that weren't kind about me in front of other people. Like on the computer? Kyla's little brow furrowed. Was it a mean video? It was, I said. But sometimes people only see things when someone shows them the truth. Did you show her the truth? David asked quietly, kneeling beside me, his voice steady. I did, I said, and then I waited to see what she would do. Was she sorry? Sam wanted to know. She said sorry, I answered, and she's been working on the things that made her say it. How do you work on being sorry? Kyla asked, like she might try it the next day with a friend. You keep showing up, David said. You go to the person you hurt and you try to be different. You don't just say words. You change how you act. That's right, I said. Words are the start. Actions are the rest. I miss Mommy, Kyla said, and for a second the soil between us felt heavier. So do I, David replied, and his voice cracked around the edges. But missing someone doesn't mean you let them keep hurting you. It means you want them to be better. Will she come back? Sam asked, eyes on the lemon tree's shadow. Maybe, I said. Maybe she will. Maybe she won't. Either way, you'll always have a place here, even if she doesn't come back for a long time. Kyla pressed. Even then, I promised. This house grows people who are loved no matter what. Grandma, teach me how to water without drowning, Sam demanded, serious as any apprentice. Give it a little sip, I said, demonstrating with the small can. Not a waterfall. Like that? He repeated, mimicking my careful pour. Exactly like that. We worked in companionable silence for a few minutes, only the scrape of trowels and the soft thud of earth settling. I felt the sun warm my shoulders and the lemon scent lift my memory to other afternoons. Small hands helping, a younger David chasing a ball, Richard's laugh from the yard. Planting felt like stitching up the world, one small stitch at a time. You know, David said after a while, looking at the neat row of herbs, this is the kind of thing your mother would have loved. She would have argued about spacing, I teased, and she would have said you were too close to the fence. She would have been right, he laughed, and the sound was thin but true. Grandma? Kyla asked again, quieter now, like a bird testing the wind. Do you wish things were the same? I do, I admitted. I wish things were easier, but I also know that sometimes things have to change to get better. Like when the plant moves to a better pot? Sam asked, thoughtful. Exactly, I said. Sometimes being moved is the only way to grow. Do you forgive Mommy? Kyla's question was simple and powerful. I forgive the person she is working to become, I said. Forgiveness is a choice I make when I see the work, not only hear the words. Will you tell her that? David asked, watching me with a look I'd seen when he was young, searching for a roadmap. I will, I said, when she's ready to hear it. Grandma, Kyla whispered, pressing her small, dirt-streaked hand into mine. Thanks for teaching me. Always, I said, and my heart softened until it felt like something poured out into the soil. Later, when we washed the dirt from our hands and the kids chased each other around the bench, I sat a moment under the lemon tree's shade. The afternoon was slow, the kind of warmth that repairs edges. I felt the ease of small hands in mine, the soft thrum of life that doesn't ask for headlines or applause, only care. David came and sat beside me, his knee brushing mine. They needed this, he said. And I needed it too. You did good, I told him. They see you. That matters. It's you they'll remember, he said, voice low. Your patience. How you taught them to be steady. I taught them a lot, I said softly. But you taught them how to come back. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He looked at it like someone holding a tiny truth. I wanted to give this to you earlier, he said, voice careful. But I thought I wanted it to feel right. What is it? I asked, surprised. The kids froze mid-chase and turned to watch. Open it, he said. Please. I slid my thumb under the flap and unfolded the paper inside. My name was printed at the top, David's hand shaky but steady at the edge of the page. The words were simple and legal and small and huge all at once. I read the first line and then the second. My breath caught in my throat. They kids crowded close without being asked, as if they too knew this was one of those grown-up things that changed afternoons into lifetimes. I looked up at David. His face was quiet, pleading, hopeful. I felt the lemon-scented air fill my lungs like an answer. It's nothing dramatic, he said, slipping into the kitchen like he always does, quiet but sure. You sound dramatic, I replied before I even looked up. He set a small envelope on the table and folded his hands. Open it. What is it? I asked, fingers already finding the flap. You'll see, he said. Just open it. I peeled the paper back. There was a typed page, neat and official, and a second sheet with his handwriting at the bottom. My name was printed across the top in a way that made my stomach flip. "Read it out loud," he said, voice steady. "So you know I mean every word." I cleared my throat. "I, David Thomas Harper, hereby renounce any claim to the property located at 14 Maplewood Lane, now and forever. I release all rights, present and future, and will not contest ownership during the lifetime of my mother, Margaret Harper." His hand rested on the table like he needed the wood under his palm. I signed it. "You signed it?" My voice came out small. My hands were suddenly clumsy. "I did. Why?" I asked, though my eyes had already answered. He looked at me like a man who had rehearsed the truth until it was easier to say than to keep inside. "Because you deserved it a long time ago," he said. "Because I was ashamed of how I treated you. Because I want your peace to be real, not a paper promise." The kids were in the living room, building a spaceship out of couch cushions. Their laughter threaded through the kitchen like a hymn. Kyla's small voice called, "Grandma, is lunch ready?" David smiled at them and then back at me. "You did this for them too," I said. "So they grow up knowing something different." "I did it for me," he replied. "So I can look at myself in the mirror without flinching. So I can teach them how to be a good man." "You're teaching them the hard way," I said. "By fixing what you broke." He nodded. "Yes, by fixing what I broke." His eyes were wet but not shaky. They had that steady look of someone who'd walked through a long room of mirrors and finally found a door. "You didn't have to do this," I said, though the word felt small against the paper in my hand. "I wanted to," he said. "You gave me everything, Mom. A home, a life, a shoulder. I kept taking because it was easy. That ends now." He reached across the table and took my hand. His thumb rubbed the back of my knuckles like a promise. I felt the years in that touch. The boy who used to fall off his bike, the teenager who hid his worries, the man who finally understood. "Will you keep it?" he asked softly. "The house, and will you stay?" My throat tightened. The house was mine on paper, yes. But when he laughed at the video, when silence became easier than standing up, I had almost given pieces of it away. "I will stay," I said. "This house is where I belong." "Good," he said. "Because I want you to live here without wondering if someday it will be gone." "I've been wondering," I admitted. "For a long time." "Not anymore," he said. "I signed the papers this morning. I had them drawn up with the attorney. It was simple. It was long in coming." "You went to a lawyer?" I asked, half amused. "You did this quietly?" "I did," he said. "Quietly, because I wanted it to be right, not a spectacle." "You surprise me," I said, and the smile that came felt like sunlight. He shifted. "There's more." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small booklet. "This is a waiver. It says I renounce any claim now and in the future. It's filed." I gave a copy to Michael. "You filed it?" The words landed like steady stones. "You filed it already?" "I did," he said. "I wanted to show you I wasn't just saying things. I wanted you to know I meant every word." "Why the hurry?" I asked. "Why now?" He took a breath, the kind you take before you say something you've held for years. "Because I woke up one morning and realized I'd been living selfishly. Because the sound of you at the sink keeps me awake. Because I want my children to see that men can do the right thing without being forced." The kettle sang on the stove. Light painted the counter in a soft strip. David's voice softened as he added, "I want you to live freely, Mom. Not worried. Not afraid what will happen if you get sick, or if something else goes wrong. You deserve better than uncertainty." My eyes blurred. The paper in my hand felt heavier now with every line I reread. "You don't know how much this helps," I said. "Not because of the money, but because of the gesture. You made a space inside me that was always on edge feel safe." He laughed a little, like someone letting out air he'd been holding for years. "I'm not asking for thanks," he said. "I'm asking to be trusted to be better." "You don't need permission," I replied. "Just keep acting like this." He stood then and came around the table to hug me. His arms felt familiar and new at once. He buried his face in my shoulder, and for a long moment I let him. I could smell his work shirt and the faint trace of the coffee he'd brought this morning. There was a tremor in his breath that matched the one in my chest. "You raised a good man," I whispered into his hair, though it felt like the roles had finally reversed. "You raised someone who could choose right." "No," he said, pulling back to look at me. "You raised me." I'm only trying to follow through. We sat down again. He pointed to the papers and then at the kids. I hope they learn from this, he said. That respect is something you build, not something you assume. They will, I said, thinking of Kyla tending the basil and Sam insisting on plant baths. They have you and they have me. He reached for his phone and scrolled. I also set up a direct deposit to your savings, he said. It's small at first, symbolic, $1,500 a month. A reminder that living here is a privilege and that I won't take it for granted. You didn't have to, I said, voice soft. But it's thoughtful. I want you to have choices, he said. Not because I own you, but because I care. That's a new kind of love, I said, and my voice carried the whole story of a woman who had learned how to accept care after years of giving it. The children ran into the kitchen, breathless and sticky with juice. Grandma, can we have lemon pie? Kyla asked, thrusting a hand into the air like a tiny flag of victory. After lunch, I said, smiling. And you can help. David watched them and then back at me. We'll do more than words, he promised. I'll show up. I'll teach them. I'll stay. I'll hold you to that, I said, and we both laughed. The sound felt honest. Later, after the kids napped and the house settled into a calm that felt different from the old cautious quiet, I sat with the papers folded on my lap. I read his signature again, felt the assurance in every letter. The lemon tree outside cast moving shadows across the floor. I felt full in a way I had not allowed myself to feel for years. My hands were steady as I placed the documents into the drawer where I kept the deed and the old tin of saved coins. For the first time in decades, the thought of sleeping through the night without waking with a tight chest didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt possible. I closed the curtains, set the kettle for tea, and sat. The house hummed softly, the refrigerator, the distant traffic, the ticking clock. I breathed deep and let the breath out slow. Did you see this one? I asked, holding up my phone like it was a fragile bird. I can't read the whole thing from here, he said, leaning in. Read it out. It's from a woman named Claire, I said, voice shaking a little. She says she watched the interview and left her husband this week. You're kidding. I wish I were. I packed a bag for my children and me, I read. I waited until he left for work and I went. I'm in a shelter now, but I am not scared anymore. Thank you for showing me I could have a life. Claire. That's huge, he said. You helped someone leave. I didn't do anything but tell the truth, I said. But the truth can be loud. My Aunt Ruby just texted, he said, squinting. She wants to do a follow-up video. Tell her yes, I said. If people are listening, we have to keep talking. The messages kept coming. I scrolled and read aloud, because hearing seemed to make them real. Hi, Mrs. Harper. I'm 68, and my son thinks I should earn my keep. He's taking the money. I watched you, and I'm calling a lawyer Monday. Mrs. Harper, my grandma cried when she saw the clip. She said, finally, to the woman who taught her son to be a man, thank you. Someone from Texas sent photos of herself holding a placard that says, Grandmothers deserve respect, David said, smiling a little. They turned it into a small movement, I said, surprised. A tiny thing can bend the wind. A voicemail blinked. I tapped it and let the voice pour out. Mrs. Jakes, I'm calling from the community center. We want to host a talk for older women. You inspired us. We started something, David said softly. Not because you wanted fame. I never wanted that, I said. I wanted one woman to stop believing she was invisible. There was a long message from a woman named Paula. I put the phone on speaker. I stayed with him for 30 years because I thought I was keeping the family together, the voice said, brittle and honest. Tonight I burned the excuses. I put my name on the lease. I filed for my own apartment. Your story gave me courage. You can hear it in her voice, I said. She sounds lighter. Do you ever think it'll stop? David asked. The messages, the calls? No, I said. Not soon. But I never imagined this would be what happens after I chose myself. A letter came by mail. I opened it slowly, like you would open something fragile. Dear Mrs. Harper, it began. You don't know me, but my name is Ruth. I cried watching you on TV. I left my husband yesterday. I took my cat and my toolbox and I left. I'm 74. I thought it was too late. I'm proof it isn't. Ruth. You're making a difference, David said, eyes wet. You really are. It's strange, I said. For years, my days were about bills and bread and keeping a roof. Now my name means something else. Someone wants to interview you for a morning show, he said. They want you on camera. I already did one, I said. I sat with my back to the camera. They want you front and center now. People say your voice helped them. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted. I don't crave attention. I crave peace. A text popped up from Mark, my cousin, with a short video attached. Play it, David urged. I tapped. Marka spoke directly into her camera with that warm kitchen light she always used. This is my cousin. She built her life from nothing and she's teaching the rest of us to do the same. That's kind, I said. She's kind. More letters, more small, fierce testimonies. A woman wrote that she signed the deed to a tiny house she had saved for. Another said she filed for custody after watching my interview. My phone buzzed until it hummed like an electric box. You doing okay? David asked, watching me closely. Yes, I said. No, I don't know. It's a lot. It is, I said, folding my hands around the phone. It's heavy in the best way. I read one aloud that I couldn't stop thinking about. Mrs. Harper, I stayed in an abusive marriage because I thought I deserved it. Your interview made me see I had a life left to live. I left and I'm safe. My kids hugged me and said, "We're proud of you." Marion, you cried, he said with a small laugh I recognized from before, like the way you used to cry at weddings. I cried because I was glad she left, I said. Not because of me, but because someone else chose herself. A knock at the door. I opened it to Ruby, cheeks flushed from the walk, energetic as if she'd swallowed sunshine. She stepped in and hugged me so tight I smelled her cinnamon soap. I had to see you, she said. The response is huge. People want to help. Shelters, lawyers, people offering rides. We can make a list, David said, already taking notes. Make it a big list, Ruby said, eyes shining. This is bigger than a single apology. It's a call. I sat with the three of them, my son, my cousin, and the steady thread of strangers woven into our kitchen like a new tablecloth. I felt something shift. It was no longer only about my dignity. It was about the echo of that dignity showing up in other lives. My house had become a small lighthouse. I never wanted to be the loud one, I said, watching the sun move across the counter. But I suppose loudness is what helps people hear when the walls have been too long. Your pain turned into power, David said, voice soft. That's a rare thing. And dangerous to some, Ruby added. Not everyone will cheer, but the people who need to hear will. A small envelope sat on the table among the mail. I opened it last. Inside was a simple note in a careful hand. Mrs. Harper, I finally left. I took my cat in a small bag. I cried all night, then I didn't. Thank you, Evelyn. That one's from a week ago, Ruby said. She sent an update. She's in a new apartment with sunlight. Told you it was changing things, David said. I folded the note and set it beside the jar of pens. My heart felt full and raw. Letters from strangers had become a mirror. They held pieces of me I had forgotten, my stubbornness, my refusal to vanish, the small ways I had shown up. Now I saw those same pieces reflected in women I would never meet. Do you feel different? David asked. I feel responsible, I said. Not for them, but to them. If my story helped one woman leave, then I must keep telling the truth. If it helped many, then I must make sure they have doors to go to. Ruby tapped her phone. I'll set up a community call. We'll gather resources, names, volunteers. You don't have to do this alone. I know, I said. But I will be careful. This is not about me being a hero. It's about building something that lasts after the cameras stop. The mailbox hummed again with another envelope. I stared at it and then looked up at David and Ruby. They nodded like two people asking if I was ready. I nodded back. There was one more message waiting on my phone. I didn't open it yet. I held the device in my hand like a small decision. Are you sure you want to do this now? He asked, setting the tripod on the table like a man arranging tools he didn't fully trust. I am, I said, smoothing the sleeve of my cardigan. If not now, when? You look nervous. I am. But the shaking is a different kind of brave. Okay, he said, stepping back so the camera could see me. Talk like you talk to me. Not the news anchor voice. Right. I settled into the navy armchair, the one that still remembers my shape. The lamp threw a soft circle of light over my hands and the little notepad I'd scribbled on all morning. You'll do fine, he said. I'll press record when you say so. I never thought I'd be asking for courage from my son, I said, and the corners of his mouth lifted. Ask away, he replied. I'll give it. I'm going to start with boundaries, I said, reading the first line quietly to myself. Then dignity, then the thing people forget, silence can be strength. Good structure, he offered. Short sentences. Let them breathe between lines. All right, I said, and looked into the little red light blinking on the camera like a patient eye. Ready? Whenever you are. My name is Margaret, I said, and my voice was small at first, then steadied. I built this house with my hands and my work. I raised a son here. I cooked, I cleaned, I sewed, and I saved. For years, I let love take up all the room. I made myself small so others could grow. That was a mistake. You're clear, he said softly. Keep going. Respect is not a favor you give to people who are family, I said, turning a page with fingers that remembered every penny saved. It's a requirement. Age is not an eraser of dignity. Doing good for your family does not mean disappearing. That line hits, he said. Say it again, slower. Age is not an eraser of dignity, I repeated, letting the words sit. If you live with someone, you owe them respect. If you love someone, you don't use them for laughs or likes. You sound like you mean it, he said, and I felt steadier. Tell them what you learned. I learned that kindness without boundaries becomes invisibility, I said. I learned that silence can be a shield or a prison. I learned that to be kind and to be taken are not the same thing, so I made rules. I asked for rent. I asked for respect. I asked that our home not be used as content fodder. That's practical, he said. Real people need that. Boundaries are not punishments, I said. They are the shape that keeps love sustainable. Good, he said. Now say something about courage. Courage isn't loud, I said. Courage is waking up and deciding you will not let people take pieces of your life because it's easier for them. Courage is getting help when you need it. Courage is saying no. You haven't lost your tenderness, he observed. Don't hide that. I won't, I said. Toughness without tenderness is just hardness. Maybe say something about silence being strength, he prompted. People think silence means weakness, I said, the words tasting like old tea. But sometimes the quiet is where we collect our plans. Sometimes silence is how we save our best words for the moment they matter. I stayed quiet long enough to learn that silence can heal, and also long enough to let myself be used. I won't confuse the two again. Perfect, he said. Wrap it up with what you hope for. I hope every woman who sees this remembers she's not invisible, I said. I hope daughters learn to respect and sons learn to stand up. I hope grandmothers get to be grandmothers and not unpaid staff. And if my small story helps one person leave a harmful place, it's worth the discomfort. You okay? He asked. I looked at him and the little crease at the corner of his eye. He had grown into someone steadier than I expected. I am, I said, nervous but honest. He hit the button. The camera recorded the line I just said in a blink. I spoke again, a little softer. If you're watching and you're scared, know this. You deserve space to be whole. You deserve a voice that's not used to get attention. You deserve safety. Pause, he said quietly after a breath. That was beautiful. After a moment I said, thank you. I felt raw and oddly calm. The recording light glowed like a promise. He leaned over and checked the playback on the screen. It's good, he said. Real and kind. People will hear you. I packed the notepad away, hands moving like someone who had folded up a map. Do you want me to post it now? I asked, heart beating a steady drum. If you're ready, he said. You can add a short note. Resources for anyone who needs help. I'll do that, I said. My fingers trembled as I typed the caption. If this touched you, you are not alone. Helplines and community resources below. Be safe. Be brave. Love doesn't erase dignity. Are you sure you want your face in it? He asked suddenly. You did the interview with your back turned. I want this one to be different, I said. I want women to see a face that chose herself. But if it becomes too much, we can take it down. He nodded. I'll be here. I pressed upload. The little progress circle spun like a tiny clock. I watched it fill, and then the notification came. Posted. I leaned back, breath leaving me like a small laugh. The screen on my phone was quiet for a second, and then the first comment blinked in. Thank you. Brave. Love you. My hands are shaking, I admitted. But in a good way. That's how you know it mattered, he said. People always shake when they do something true. I stayed in the chair a long time after the post went live. thinking about the years of being careful and the months of building courage. Messages started to come in small and steady. I read one aloud. I watched, and I left my house this morning. I am safe now. Thank you. Tears pricked my eyes, but they were not of vanity. They were for the woman who had packed a bag in the dark and found a road. They were for me, who finally used my voice on my terms. The screen faded to black as the video ended. I sat in the dark glow of the lamp and listened to the house breathe. I had spoken the words I needed to hear. I had given others a map, perhaps. I wondered then, honestly, would anyone care? Did you see it? David asked, eyes on my phone like it held the weather for the world. I saw, I said. I saw a lot. People are calling you an icon, he said, voice half laughing, half stunned. An icon? I repeated, and the word felt strange in my mouth. They're saying you stood up and didn't back down. I stood up, I said. That's all. This one says, you gave me the courage to leave. He handed the phone to me. I can't believe that, I said. My fingers trembled just enough to make the screen wobble. You should read them, he urged. They're coming fast. No, I said, and then I did, because the names started to matter. Claire, Ruth, Evelyn, Marion. Tiny stories that had turned big in the space of a few hours. That woman from Ohio left her house because of you, David said, shaking his head. She says her kids hugged her and they all cried. I never wanted to be the reason someone cried, I murmured. You changed things, he said simply. You made it okay to not be invisible. That's what I hoped for, I said. Not the attention, not the likes, just that someone might choose herself. Look at this one, he said, pointing. An attorney offering pro bono help. A shelter asking for referrals. People are organizing. That's useful, I said. That's what I wanted. Doors, not applause. You planted a lemon tree and you planted something else, he said, shading his eyes at the backyard light. A new way to be. I planted that tree with my hands when your father was alive, I said, voice soft. It's older than a lot of things in this town. It's stubborn. It's you, he said. Stubborn in a good way. We're stubborn together, I replied. You included. Are you okay? He asked, reading me like he had finally learned to do. Yes, I said. I'm tired, but I'm okay. People want interviews, he said. They want to invite you to speak. I don't want to be a public figure, I said. I want the work to keep happening. Then we make the work happen, he said. You can be a quiet leader. Quiet leader, I said, and smiled because it suited me better than any title. You should go sit under the lemon tree, he suggested. Let it sink in. So I did. I walked out barefoot onto the cool grass. The lemon tree's leaves rustled. The afternoon light was low and kind. Kyla and Sam chased each other around the bench and shouted at the squirrels like tiny referees of the yard. Grandma! Kyla yelled. Come sit. I'm coming, I said, and I sank onto the concrete bench that was a little warm from the sun. Feels good out here, David said, joining me with 2 mugs of tea. It does, I answered, taking the cup. The steam smelled of cinnamon and something safer than the storm that had passed. I read one letter 3 times, he said. From a woman who left yesterday. She said she'd felt invisible for years. I can imagine that feeling, I said. I lived in that shadow for a long time. Do you regret fighting back? He asked, voice careful. No, I said. Fear kept me small for years, but I've learned something. If you don't take up space, someone else will decide what fits there. That's fierce, he said, but proud. We did what we had to do, I told him. We set rules. We kept the kids safe. We told the truth. And you taught me how to be a better man, he said. I needed that. You were always capable, I said. You just had to see it. I see it now, he said, and I'm going to keep seeing it. Kyla bounded over with a dandelion crown wobbling on her head. Grandma, you're famous, she declared, like it was a fact from the Weather Channel. I'm not sure I like the sound of that, I said. You are, Sam chimed in. People say you didn't let anyone be mean. They do, I said. And I'll keep making sure the kids know that being kind doesn't mean being small. A neighbor waved from across the street. An older man I'd seen with his dog every morning tipped his hat. Even small gestures seemed larger now, like the world had found its feet. You built something bigger than the house, David said. You built a sign that says, respect matters. It's a good sign, I said, looking at the lemon branches above us, heavy with fruit that would smell like summer for months. Are you scared? He asked again because he knew fear was patient. Sometimes, I admitted, but the fear feels less like a cage and more like something I can use to steady myself. You sleep better now? He asked. I do, I said. For the first stretch of nights in a long while, I slept without waking to worry. That's worth everything, he said. It is, I agreed. And there's more work. People need help finding lawyers, places to stay, ways to leave safely. We'll organize, he said. Ruby's helping. Michael's offered legal aid. We'll be careful, I said. This isn't about headlines. It's about footholds. Are you proud? He asked suddenly. The question stopped like a pebble thrown into a smooth place. I'm content, I said slowly. Pride feels big and loud. Contentment is quieter. That sounds like you, he said. Quiet but strong. The sun dipped lower. Shadows grew long and leaned into the yard like old friends. I felt the evening come soft and sure. Messages still pinged on my phone now and then. But the rhythm of our life settled back into the ordinary miracles. Dinner, homework, bedtime stories. I thought I'd lose everything, I said, half to him, half to the tree. But I gained a different kind of room. Space to be myself. You gave others room too, he said. That's the real gift. I suppose it is, I said. A lemon tree grows fruit. So do the choices we plant. Kyla climbed onto my lap and Sam leaned his head against my shoulder. Their weight felt like a benediction. I breathed them in, the small people who had made this all worth the trouble. Will you still tell stories? Kyla asked, muffled into my cardigan. I will, I said. Stories are how we learn. David rose and stretched. Let's make lemon pie tomorrow, he said. For the people who need a slice of comfort. We will, I promised. And we'll leave a plate at the window for anyone who needs to know somebody cares. Night came gently. The house hummed with quiet. I sat a moment longer under the lemon tree and felt something settle. Not victory like a shout, but victory like a closed hand. My chest felt lighter and steadier. I had reclaimed the house, yes, but also a voice and a boundary and a sense of who I was when I stopped making myself small. Made of steel, David said softly as he stood at the doorway, using the nickname from one of the messages. I prefer made of lemon tree roots, I joked, and we laughed together, small and true. The world online buzzed into the night. Comments, letters, offers came and went. I slept with the back door shut and the knowledge that if anyone needed help in the morning, we would be ready. I slept like a person who had done what she needed to do. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts below. Tell me if you've ever felt invisible, how you set boundaries, or who taught you to stand up. Subscribe for more real stories of ordinary people reclaiming dignity. Hit the bell to get new episodes, and if you're struggling, please reach out to local resources or message me. Your voice matters. Your story matters, and dignity has no expiration date. Together we can build a kinder, stronger world where respect is non-negotiable. Thank you for listening. Welcome to a community that sees you. Please stay brave. Keep sharing.